All right, good evening, everybody. We are ready to get started. Welcome to the August 21st, 2024 Grants Pass City Council meeting, and we start our meetings with a moment of silence, so please join us for that. Please rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I know that Councilor Auger is on her way, running a little late. But let's go ahead and get started tonight. Our first matter of business is a second reading on an ordinance that would amend the Development Code, Article 28, regarding utilities. And this is a second reading, so there's no presentation tonight. Council, would anybody like to start us off? Valerie.
I make a motion to accept the ordinance amending Development Code Article 28, second reading.
Seconded by Dwayne. All right, any discussion on that? All right, you made the motion to approve. Valerie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa? No. Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending Development Code Article 28 Utilities.
Thank you. And for our second item, we have a land use hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing to consider an application that would be a comprehensive plan map and zone map amendment for 398 and 440 Northeast Agness Avenue from industrial to general commercial. We will begin the hearing with a staff report, followed by a presentation by the applicant, statements by persons in favor of the application, statements by persons in opposition to the application, and an opportunity for additional comments by the applicant and staff. After that has occurred, the public comment portion will be closed and the matter will be discussed and acted upon by the council. Is there anyone present who wishes to challenge the authority of the council to hear this matter? Do any of the councilors wish to abstain from participating in this hearing or declare a potential conflict of interest? Rick.
I was at the Planning Commission hearing and I heard the presentation, but I did not participate.
Okay. Are there any other councilors who wish to disclose discussions, contacts, or other ex parte information they have received prior to this meeting regarding the application? Dwayne?
Yeah, I was contacted by Justin Gerlich due to problems that he felt that the city had done along with this process and wasn't getting the resolve he wanted, so he reached out to me and I gave him some advice to contact all of us in an email. I think we all got that email. So that's it.
Thank you. In this hearing, the decision of the council will be based upon specific criteria which are set forth in the Development Code. All testimony which apply in this case are noted in the staff report. If you would like a copy of the report, please write that on a note to the city manager and one will be provided. It is important to remember if you fail to raise an issue with enough detail to afford the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue, you will not be able to appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The hearing will now proceed with a report from staff.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Brad Clark with the Community Development Department. So our job on these particular applications is to essentially report to you the Planning Commission's position and the Planning Commission's recommendation on these Type 4 applications. I'll just go over the highlights, and we do have the applicant here tonight that will provide a report after mine. So there's two different applications that are before you tonight. One is the request for a comprehensive plan amendment, and the other is a zoning map amendment. Both of them are proposing to change property which is currently industrial and change it to commercial. The use that they propose is a 68 space recreational vehicle park, and this is located at 398 and 440 Northeast Agness Avenue. relates to the council goals to facilitate sustainable, manageable growth and also economic development. A few highlights on the application for you. As I mentioned, this is considered a type 4B, so these applications start at the Planning Commission. They do not have any final authority on these. The City Council has the authority on all type 4Bs. Owner of the property, there's two properties. Both of them are owned by ARPA LLC. Dale Hurst is identified as one of the owners there. The applicant representative is Justin Gerlitz. Current zoning is industrial. It is in the city limits. There are two properties, as I mentioned. 2.44 acres is tax lot 600, and 2.7 acres, 7.8 is tax lot 700, for a total of 5.2 acres. The surrounding land uses are listed there. We'll get a little better idea of that on the following maps. So here's an aerial showing the properties. On the right-hand side, on the east side, is Northeast Agness Avenue. And on the south side of the property is Northeast F Street. You're no doubt pretty familiar with this area. It's zoned industrial, and again, the proposed use is a recreational vehicle park. Let me change that pointer there. A couple of street level images for you. On the left here is the Northeast Agness Avenue looking out at the property. You can see there is a structure, the old Greyhound facility there. On the right side is the Northeast F Street frontage. And again, this is looking out to the west with this mini storage here on the left. These are the properties that are at the intersection of Northeast Agness and F Street. The northeast corner is this property, ODOT's maintenance yard. And then on the southeast corner is currently a vacant. Both of those properties are zoned industrial. So since the request tonight is to go from what is industrial to general commercial, I just wanted to put right in the forefront of your minds what the definition is of these, because I think we maybe all get ideas of what industrial means or what commercial means. What matters is what the development code defines them as. So the first one at the top there is the industrial, which is what it's currently zoned. It's to provide for those industrial uses with heavier impacts upon their surroundings and the need for outdoor functions. Performance standards are less than required for other industrial districts. So we have two other industrial districts, Business Park and Industrial Park. Industrial is the highest intensity of the three industrial zones that the city has, because it allows for that outdoor use. The other two don't really allow for much outdoor industrial use. It is the express intent of the industrial district to maintain lands for industrial use, with commercial and residential uses limited to those uses accessory to industrial development. The next definition is the general commercial. That's the zone that they are proposing. The purpose of the general commercial district is to provide for all commercial and professional uses, excepting those uses requiring on-site manufacture or assembly. So you cannot do in the general commercial on-site manufacture or assembly uses. Performance development standards are designed to protect adjacent uses and development from impact, and the market factors of supply, demand, location, and cost are expected to provide commercial development. A couple more maps to help orient you. So this is the comprehensive plan designation. This is one of the two changes that they are proposing. Comp plan designation, the red is the general commercial and the blue is industrial. The star is at that corner of Agness and F Street. And here is the zoning district, which mimics exactly what the comprehensive plan is. This is just a zoomed out view so you can kind of see what's happening in this sub area of the city. Again, the red is the general commercial. This large building here, that's Walmart. And then the purple is what's zoned industrial. We have some business park uses, which are the light blue. So all Spalding Industrial Park is just right on the corner. So that's also has the I zoning industrial. So the Planning Commission held a number of different meetings on this request. You have in your packet a much more detailed explanation and the minutes from those meetings explaining it, but I wanted to highlight for you the findings, the key findings that are for denial, since that's what's before you. And this was at the June 26th meeting. It was on a 3-2 vote, and there was one zoning commission member absent. So the three key findings that they found as the basis for denial: the first one, City Comprehensive Plan Policy 13.5.4, conversion of I to GC does not meet policies contained in the Comprehensive Plan economic element. In order to approve a comprehensive plan, you have to find 100% of the policies can be met, the relevant policies can be met, and in this case they found that there was some policies in element 8 that could not be met. So that's one of the reasons they recommend denial. The second is 13.2, an update economic opportunity analysis is required to review the comprehensive plan data to clearly demonstrate consistency for this request. So economic opportunity analysis is a state of Oregon mandated document that is adopted in comprehensive plans. It looks at overall trends, it looks at job growth, it looks at the inventory of employment lands. It's fairly comprehensive. The base economic opportunity analysis for us was in 2007, and then there was a pretty substantial amendment in 2014. So our EOA right now is about 10 years old. You'll notice the word in there required, that was the commission's language. The Department of Land Conservation and Development staff clarified, that is also what they want to see. And the whole point there is that for cities in Oregon to be planning kind of on a rolling window, like a 20-year window. And so you're not just planning for 20 years, adopt your plan and just leave it and not revisit it again for 20 years, because then you're going to be kind of behind the ball, if you will. So their strong preference and recommendation is for communities to keep these updated, and we don't have an updated one since 14. We are looking to update that, but right now what we have is what we have. That's what we need to use as the basis for this decision. And then finally, the state planning goal 9, economic development, the amount of land planned for economic development should be adequate for a 20-year supply. As discussed in element 8, the zone change from industrial to general commercial does not meet the goal 9 policies and could have a negative impact on the working inventory of areas that are suitable for economic growth. So those are the three main reasons for the comprehensive plan amendment to be denied. Now the zoning map amendment basically just points back to that. One of the requirements to change the zoning is to have consistency with the comp plan. Since they found the comp plan didn't meet it, there is no consistency, and so that item can't be met according to the Planning Commission. So since the real thrust of their recommendation for denial is element 8, the economy section of the comp plan, I just wanted to briefly highlight a couple of things there for you. It was originally adopted in 2008, and then in 14, when we expanded the urban growth boundary here in the city, the economic element and the urbanization element were also updated at that time. Table 1-3 in element 8 shows a deficit of about 296 acres of industrial lands for the entire planning period. So the planning period goes through the year 2043. So that deficit is basically projecting and looking at population, looking at job targets, and then projecting out and saying, here's what the amount of industrial land that the city should have. And it does show a deficit. Policy 8.1 must ensure that an adequate quantity and quality of industrial land is available, zoned, and serviced. So that is one of the policies also in element 8. It goes on to say that you have to protect existing and planned industrial areas from intrusion of incompatible land uses through land use regulation. That one is relevant. I just wanted to go back here in that if you look at this property here, which is vacant at that southeast corner of the intersection of Agness, it's diagonal from this property. So allowing for an RV park diagonal to this from the city's perspective, at least from staff and the Planning Commission, could be viewed as an intrusion for future industrial. Meaning if you have an industrial user that is looking at this property and you have across the street an RV park, that could be viewed as an intrusion to the industrial area. And then finally, industrial land needs scaled proportionally to correspond to the population forecast. We talked a little bit about that. This is just a clip from, again, from element 8, showing those projections for the 20-year, and then if you add the 10-year urban reserve, and then you get the 30-year. This is showing the 296 acres of industrial deficit. So in terms of the state, the DLC does recommend comprehensive plans to be updated every 6 to 8 years to achieve that currency. That is currently, we are behind in terms of getting that update, but it's recommended, but until that happens, again, we need to use the data that is in the comp plan that we have before us. There are planning assistance grants that become available next year to do these updates, or we wouldn't have to wait for that. The council could choose to use general fund money to update it as well. 2 more slides that talk about the state's comments on this application. OAR, Oregon Administrative Rule 66009, talks about the comprehensive plan change being in excess of 2 acres. So this is a total of about 5.5 acres. So it does sort of trigger another element of review because of the size of that. The proposed change has to be consistent with our most recent EOA. The second item there, land need, UGB is based on a 20-year population forecast and shall provide land needed for housing and employment uses. And again, the second one there is important in that we're talking about both long-term industrial property and short-term. So when we talk about the industrial land supply deficit, that's everything. But it's important that we have short-term industrial, and that's defined as basically being available to build on within 1 year. And this property does meet that because it has all the utilities existing along the frontages of both F Street and Agness. Employment land need must be based on an estimated job growth over the planning period. Cities shall provide reasonable justification for the job growth estimate. And these job growth estimates do not necessarily need to be proportional to population growth. That may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but they're in the industrial development like warehousing, like other types of manufacturing are not necessarily a direct line to a population. I think Prineville, Oregon is a good example of that, where they have a significant industrial area, but they have, less than 5,000 population, but they have expanded their job growth by, over 200%. So there's not necessarily a direct linear relationship there. I think we covered this one already, except for that last bullet. Serviceable, so the state OARs do require that the short-term supply be serviceable, again, meaning it's got stormwater, it's got sewer, it's got water and transportation available to it. This is just a clip from the zoning map that shows in the purple, again, there's about 92 I-zoned properties. There is another one up off of Vine Street that's not shown on this map, but the bulk of them are shown here, kind of along the railroad corridor. Of those, if you were to break them down and look at what's available for the short-term supply and that are over an acre, so we have quite a bit of industrial land that is acre or less. But if you look at that, which is 1 acre and above, and has services available to it, we narrowed down pretty quickly to just 6 main parcels. They are outlined in yellow here. 2 of those 6 parcels are the 2 that we're talking about tonight. So you would, at least when you're talking about the larger land supply for industrial, there would be a kind of a hit on that supply by removing these. Councilor Juncker mentioned that one of his communications with the applicant related to the process. You have in Exhibit 2 in your packet a much more detailed outline of what the whole process was. I wanted to take ownership here of something that was the reason for the call, I think, to the councilor, and that was as this got to the Planning Commission. The applicant had filed memos in response to the state's memos. Those failed to be included in the packet for the Planning Commission's last meeting, and that meant that the Planning Commission really did not have adequate time to digest and review that information. So that is something that my department and our staff take responsibility for. They did hold their last hearing on June 26th, 2024. That was their 3rd meeting, and as I mentioned, they voted 3-2 to deny. If the council tonight chooses not to go with the Planning Commission recommendation and you move to approve, or at least want to move towards approval, then you would need to review these 3 criterion that are on the screen, because right now these are in your packet for denial. If you choose to approve, you're going to have deliberation to determine that these 3 can be met. Criterion A, there has to be consistency with the findings, goals, and policies in the comp plan. Again, there's several listed here, but it's really just element 8 that we're talking about. Criterion B, there is a change in circumstances validated by and supported by the database, or proposed change to the database, which would necessitate a change in the findings. And then criterion C, applicable goals of the state of Oregon, particularly goal 9, economic development. You would need to make a finding that changing it to general commercial is supported by that element. And then finally, the same thing for the zoning map amendment. There's several criterion here that you would need to find in the affirmative. So the call to action is at your discretion. 120-day deadline was waived by the applicant. So there is no specific 120-day deadline on this. And then there's 2 alternatives for you on the bottom.
Thank you, Brad. Council, do you have any questions for staff? Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I just had a question about updating the comprehensive plan and the economic opportunity analysis. What kind of timeline is that? How long would that take to get done?
Yeah, we asked Lee McVeigh that, the DLCT person. She said the quickest one she has seen is about 8 months, and the longest is about 2 years. So, you know, you can figure 12 to 18 probably. There's a lot of data crunching that goes into it in order to, you know, get that, all the requirements met.
And what kind of costs are associated with that? Do you have a rough estimate?
The most recent one in Oregon, I believe, is in the Boardman area because of the port there. In Boardman, they have been doing a lot of economic development work to accommodate the port. That's the most recent, and I think that she said that was running around $150,000 to $180,000 for that 2-year study.
Okay, and then you also mentioned that there are going to be grants coming available next year. How much would those potentially cover of this update?
Yes, they would become available in August of 2025, and they typically cover 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie, do you still have?
Yeah, I do have a question, because I know on the mandatory, if you want to go back to the next slide, it's kind of small here, for that mandatory review criterion. So I was unclear exactly, because you went through it pretty fast, but it was my understanding that if we overruled the Planning Commission, that we would have to give reasons for all of the criterion, or I know you said the first three, and then I was unclear afterwards. You went on to say something else about some of the other ones. So
yeah, thank you, Counselor. That's a good clarification. These are all of them. Several of those the Commission found do support a change to the general commercial. But the ones that they did not are criterion 2.
Okay. And then you mentioned that on Vine Street or up in the north end of town, there was some commercial area that was not on the map?
Yes, there's one industrial property off Vine Street on your way out past Pony Lane that is industrial.
Okay, but that's a pretty small piece, or is that what's the size of that piece?
No, it's relatively good size. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact acreage, but I believe it's greater than 4 acres. I don't know the exact.
Okay, is any of the land that was like north of when we brought in the UGB or that area, the north end by Schofield or any of that, was any of that considered industrial?
Yes, and I believe Justin will be speaking about that. The north of I-5 at the scenic area, there's about 120 plus 130 acres that has employment designation in our current comprehensive plan. It's all zoned for I shouldn't say all. I think there's a couple of properties that are not zoned rural, but almost all of that is rural residential. So it's county, it's not annexed. It is in the urban growth boundary, and it is designated in our comprehensive plan for employment. But we did not view that as serviceable, at least today. As you know, you approved a grant to bring sewer and water underneath I-5 to serve the cottages project. That could potentially open up some land, but it would need to be annexed and zoned from rural residential to industrial. So that is an option. It doesn't meet the definition of short-term supply.
It's just simply because of the annexation and the zoning, or, I mean, since we did bring water to it, does that fit?
Well, you
ready for
approved
water sewer?
a grant to do that. The work isn't done yet, and that work also didn't include transportation improvements necessary. That grant is, really more focused on the sewer water piece. But in order to meet short-term industrial land supply, it has to meet stormwater and transportation. So I think it's pretty unrealistic to say that within 1 year you would be able to annex, zone, and make all the transportation improvements in order to get that property up there from rural residential to industrial. So that's why we didn't really include that.
Okay, and I do have one other question, and that is, do we have in the last, 5-10 years, any idea of how many people have come into this Grants Pass area looking for industrial land? I'm just curious.
So Ready is our partner in this, particularly when it comes to traded sector jobs and trader sector employment. They have received some requests over the last 5-6 years. There have been a couple of them that have chosen not to come into Grants Pass because we did not have sufficient infrastructure. Those were in Spalding, and they ended up going to White City. We have had other conversations that are, more just exploratory. Those two were a little bit more serious about coming in. So yes, there have been some interest. I don't have a specific number for you tonight.
Thank you.
Rob and then Dwayne.
Brad, the approximately 4-acre site you talked about in the north section, is that set up for, is that considered short-term supply? Is that all ready to go?
No, because the sewer, or I'm sorry, it's the water on the north end of Vine. Is it, Jason will have to help me. Is that both sewer and water that we need to still get up there?
I'll go look it up real fast.
Okay, Jason's going to look it up.
Another question then. It was, you mentioned that the applicant agreed to waive the 120-day deadline for this decision. So, and apparently the Planning Commission, didn't receive all the most current responses and so forth that were involved in the rejection by DLCD. So why was this not just sent back to, if there's really no time constraint, why wasn't this sent back to the Urban Area Planning Commission again when they had all the pertinent information? Why did it continue forward when it could have gone back and given the Urban Area Planning Commission the ability to look at the whole picture?
So the Planning Commission did have that option. They could have chosen to continue the hearing if they wanted to. They chose to make a decision because they had a motion at the meeting to deny, and they proceeded with that motion, and they got a majority vote. So your point is, as I understand it, is that they got this new data, this new information, they didn't have enough time to look at it. Why didn't they just continue it? They could have done that. That was their decision.
So we, as the council, would we have the time then to essentially remand it back to the Urban Area Planning Commission?
Yes. Legally, upon written agreement by an applicant to waive the 120-day notice, that means it's open-ended. Doesn't mean that we should delay unnecessarily, of course, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dwayne.
We'll just stick to the Planning Commission. I was told that twice the information never received to the Planning Commission, that this happened twice, that the information that Justin had for them was never sent to them in a timely manner.
I think that is correct.
Okay, so that's the city screw up there, that they didn't provide that information to the Planning Commission twice to see what they had to, what Justin and this applicant had for their vote, but they went ahead and voted without it anyway. I already know what I'm talking about. So my next question is, the city comprehensive plan, is this the applicant's responsibility, or is this the city's responsibility to have this updated?
It's really the city's responsibility because we're talking about the entire urban growth boundary. An economic opportunities analysis wouldn't just look at, one property or even one neighborhood. It's going to look at the entire market and even go a little bit beyond our market and, take in Josephine County and pieces of Jackson County in this case probably. So it really is a municipality's responsibility.
Okay. And then my next question, I'm a little confused because you showed the areas in the map up there, and we got a church in that area, industrial area. We have storage units across the street, but this piece doesn't fit because it doesn't bring jobs, but I didn't know that those really bring jobs either, Can you explain why? I think this would probably bring more jobs and do more than the church, and not that I'm against the church, I actually go there, but why is this being, pushed out versus those ones that are being accepted?
Yeah, the church being allowed in this Balding area preceded me, so unfortunately I don't have any good insight to that. I don't know if the city manager does or not, but in terms of job creation, I think generally in our field, we don't view RV parks as being job generators.
There's a storage unit in it, but really.
Yeah, the storage either, correct. That's correct. So, you know, those decisions were made by prior planning commissions and prior councils. There's nothing in the rules that says you need to use those as a precedent.
I have one more question. And in one of those places in the industrial area actually is our storage for our stuff there. Is that correct? There is, on that road that goes up to the church on the left-hand side, we store all the stuff that the police collect on that road, and I'm not sure that really brings jobs either.
I'm sorry, I don't know which property we're talking about.
But I am right, I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So,
Are there other questions?
that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Brad. At this time, will the applicant please come forward and make your presentation? And you'll have 10 minutes, Justin.
Good evening, Council, Mayor and staff. Justin Gerlitz Engineering Consultants, here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I have a lot to cover tonight. This is, as mentioned, this is a really unique situation for me. As you know, I've done a lot of presentations over the years here in town, and this was a situation where I feel like we adequately responded to all concerns that were brought up throughout this process, and unfortunately they were never delivered to the Planning Commission for their vote. And the Planning Commission, because it had happened a couple of times in addition to DLCD doing exactly the same thing, ultimately was frustrated that evening that this had come to that conclusion, and that's why we're here tonight. As I don't think I've ever brought a hearing to the council that doesn't have a positive Planning Commission recommendation in the past. It's not something that I do and I want to do, but unfortunately that's why we're here tonight, and that's why I had prompted this with the email, and I asked that that hopefully everybody can be open-minded tonight, like this is kind of a fresh look, a little bit more so than normal. I'll just jump over there if that's all right. I'll kind of breeze this since we have a short time period and a lot of information here. I'll just breeze through the location. I think staff did a good job at that. Obviously, you're all familiar with the location. It is surrounded by, this is kind of an old image, but it is surrounded by the block of Walmart, a lot of big box commercial stores. So really commercial uses on that block. And then this is the last piece of the block that is basically undeveloped right now that without commercial uses. The zoning on the property to the west, just for clarification, is still industrial, but it's a parking lot for Walmart. One of the things that we looked at was transportation. The city has a planned roundabout at this location, and that's something that the applicant is looking to accommodate. This is the site plan of the proposed RV park that we currently have. That site plan is not part of tonight's application, but it's obviously the purpose of tonight's application. This was laid out in conjunction with a full traffic study that was completed to accommodate that future roundabout, move the approaches away from the intersection, and have a really good traffic flow here at this location nearest the freeway. So tonight, the big part of this is the economic element 8. So this is the piece that the questions have been coming from, so I wanted to focus on that this evening. I think everything else is basically pretty straightforward as a normal application. As mentioned in the email, this is just a snippet of it that I sent you. We had some significant issues with information not being conveyed to the Planning Commission, both from staff and both from DLCD. I'm hoping everyone's read this, but ultimately this outlined those issues. Ultimately, we had to extend this Planning Commission hearing several times. One thing we don't have now, as everyone knows, is a long-range planner. So this information was quite the treasure hunt, I'll say. Getting everything together through multiple documents. Staff did help with that. Donna Rupp, who's no longer here, helped with that, the planner. And that's where we came up with this information that is included in the memorandums that I'll kind of highlight here. So these were the key things. At first it was, although we had employment lands, they're not serviceable. So that's something I want to address tonight. We had making sure we have adequate amounts of industrial lands, and which are employment-based lands, to meet growth periods over the planning period. One of the things that came up was the population and growth rate has been slowing since we adopted the UGB. So essentially, in theory, between that and state published economic data over the last 10 years, the economic need for industrial property has also been slowing, as well as our population. One of the things they said it was outdated, as Brad mentioned, is one of the clarifying points on that is we don't have to update the economic analysis. It's something that DLCD likes the cities to do every 6 to 8 years. So that's a pretty big undue burden on an application. So we've kind of been focused on where we're at today in the UGB. That's 10 years in right now of our 20-year period, so we're halfway in. And then finally, staff, Donna specifically had helped us put together kind of an inventory of industrial lands using our new technology we have at GIS. And what we found is there's still a substantial amount of industrial undeveloped or very underdeveloped lands, and we classify that as under 249,000, this is per Donna, giving us a total of 39 parcels, 98 acres, with 70 of those acres being serviceable. Obviously a very big point tonight, serviceable acreage. Percentage-wise of our total industrial area, that's 30 to 40% of serviceable land, depending on how you look at that with those numbers today, without counting any of the area that's in the urban growth boundary. So one of the points that was mentioned by one of the counselors was, what have we developed in industrial land? So this was in your application. I actually went through line by line over the last 10 years during this urban growth boundary period and created this list. This one-page list right here is every new industrial development that has occurred in Grants Pass in 10 years. You can see how short this list is. Included in this list is Edgewater Christian Fellowship, which is a church, Foundry Village, which is transitional housing. We've got Absolute Motorsports, which is a retail facility selling motorcycles and things like that. Mini storages, a brewery, weekend brewery. We've got offices, we've got a church parking lot, and we've got self-storage, and we've got an oil change facility and a coffee drive-through. So that's the brief list that we have of industrial property and the need for it over the last 10 years. I thought that was pretty substantial. Totals up to a total of just under 33 acres, with 17 acres of it being in the industrial zone. And again, we have 70 current serviceable acres in the industrial zone. This is a summary of that staff memorandum that classified those numbers coming straight from the planning department. You can see there that these are where the parcel comes up, and these are where the numbers come here at the bottom, that 98 and 70 acres. So short-term supply, I'm looking at those numbers and I'm going, we still have 30 to 40% of our inventory right now in short-term supply, with very, very little economic growth, and industrial uses very little growth over the last 10-year period when we're planning for the next 10 years right now in this UGB period. So I think overall that's pretty important. Another thing that occurred over the last 10 years is we have transferred 12.5 acres of non-industrial lands into the industrial category. Now, these aren't I zones, I'll clarify that, but these are general commercial properties and business park properties that have switched over to opposite zones. So that also affects the inventory that was originally allotted in there. And then another big piece, and I believe Councilor Lovelace mentioned it, is north of the freeway off of Scoville Road, north of I-5, this big colored box. All of that was brought in to the employment zoned land through the comprehensive plan during the urban growth boundary expansion. It totals almost 130 acres. So that's 130 acres that when we got the UGB approved, DLCD said, yes, that's future industrial land area. And it's employment, so it's the 3 industrial categories that Brad mentioned. And then following that, back to the serviceable aspect of that area, as also mentioned, we are currently working, as you know, on a project for home bridging at this location right here at the southern tip of that new area, which we're going to be bringing water and sewer and storm drain connections to that we're currently in design on. So what that does is it immediately opens up serviceable area adjacent to that intersection right there where those utilities are brought in. So if you look at the properties that are immediately adjacent to the road, and we didn't go any further than that because we didn't want to exaggerate it, we've got 11 acres adjacent to the road immediately, and then you got another almost 12 acres where the animal shelter is that's immediately adjacent to that property. You know, and I look at these properties, especially these properties along the freeway here, like what the animal shelter is, and I think, you know, that's actually probably a really good future industrial area, also located right next to the freeway. And the reason we're saying this, of course, is because we're trying to show that the offset of our small request tonight is being met at other locations now and in the future. So DLCD had a lot of comments. We responded to those comments. Kind of each time they would produce them, we would respond back why they were incorrect or why they weren't required. We used Oregon administrative rules. We referenced them. I actually had a land use attorney I was working with to make sure everything was 100% legit that we were saying. You know, they were saying, well, we can't rely on that area north of the freeway because it's employment land. Well, that is clear in our code that it includes industrial land, which is shown right here in the code. And then the other big point is, you know, they're saying, well, we have a shortage. Well, DLCD accepted their growth boundary as proposed as it sits right now with all these extra acreage areas for industrial purposes when it was adopted. So basically what that says is that is actually our inventory that we have to work with. So when we just look at these couple of lots here and there, there's a whole lot more industrial land available overall. And then finally, this was this is a lot of information, I know, in a short period of time. And finally, this is one of the last emails from DLCD that specifically said that they advised cities update their economic element. So with that, I'm sorry, there was a lot of information in a short period of time. We truly believe with the information that we have presented to council tonight that was supposed to have been sent to the Planning Commission with detailed responses, references, Oregon administrative rule references, that we are covering the applicable criteria for a rezone at this location. This location, as mentioned, is on a block of general commercial property. We have industrial users across the street to the south. This is just kind of finishing off that block, and that's something that we often look at when we're asking for rezones, is what's exactly going on immediately adjacent to it. You know, based on the information presented tonight, based on the information in your packet, we're requesting that council approve this rezone comp plan zone change tonight for those reasons, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Council, do you have any questions? Vanessa.
Thanks, Justin. That was incredibly detailed. That presentation, is that essentially the information that was withheld or provided to the UAPC at the very last minute?
Yes, all those little snippets of wording, those came out of those two memorandums that were withheld from the UAPC.
Okay. And also I wanted to, for the proposed site today and then also the future employment sites north of I-5, can you speak to the possibility of intrusion with both the cottage project and also the proposed RV park, the intrusion to the nearby industrial zones? Yeah,
I mean, the industrial zones, an RV park at this location is something that people, it's not housing. It's something that people are coming and going from. It's conveniently located to the freeway. You know, Brad had mentioned some concerns about people across the street. Well, people across the street have every right to develop that property as an industrial zone, even if there is an RV park across the street. I mean, right now we can look at all those properties over there. We have the BMX track up here right now, but there's undeveloped industrial there. ODOT's yard is here. There's undeveloped industrial at the corner there. We have that industrial park that kind of starts in this general vicinity, and then it heads east, and then it heads south towards the railroad tracks. So this is really the corner, in my mind, of the industrial area, and it's this little carve out that still exists right now today. On the Scoville side of things, yeah, that area, I don't anticipate all of it just developing in 130 acres all at once, but I do believe that some of those areas that are near to the freeway where you don't have to drive up the road very far, ultimately will develop off of that. Those are employment zones again, so the proposed uses when it comes right up against residential, that one's a little different because it has a residential right off the freeway, whereas this is commercial to industrial. So I would imagine there'd be some tiered industrial buffering away from that. To your point.
Are there any other questions? No. All right, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application?
I sat here and listened to Del Aldrich City. I sat here and listened to you, how hard it is to get anything built around here. We need that kind of place. I had a relative come out and had to camp down in Gold Hill because there wasn't one RV spot available in this place. This is a positive thing. Make it happen.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application? All right, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of the application? All right, does the applicant have any final comments? Staff, do you have any final comments? All right, we'll close the public comment portion and turn it over to council for your consideration. Rick.
Some of you may know I'm a land use consultant, been servicing Josephine County and the city for many years. And in the times I've been consulting, I've done many RV parks, and as well as zone changes. And when they go for a hearing, you can also include state goals as well. And I've put together a real short thing on that. And I find there's a lot of factors that would support this request tonight, specifically 398 and 440 Northeast Agness Avenue. The site has been vacant for many years, and it just seems like our area needs development. Under the state goal, number 2, land use planning, when the auto wrecking yard was removed, no industrial use came in. And I feel we need to respond to the character of the community. Our community needs to stay vibrant, economically active, and we tend to be a tourist community. And I feel the RV opportunity outweighs of having the site sit vacant. Under DLCD goals also is goal number 8 in recreation. An RV park would allow motorhomes and trailers for the traveling public. And as already mentioned, there's a BMX track next door, and it would allow the opportunity for those people from out of town visiting, having accommodations at the RV park. State goal number 9 is economic development. To me, a vacant piece of property brings no economic development because there's no users of restaurants. They don't go to the grocery stores if it's vacant. And also the minimal taxes would be paid from that property. A developed site would bring new taxes to the city. State goal number 10 in housing. While RV parks have basically started to move into affordable housing because the price of a hotel night is $100 to $200 a night, and apartment rentals are usually over $1,200 a month, and as already the governor of the state of Oregon has stated, we have a shortage of housing. And goal number 11 on public facilities includes transportation. As already mentioned in tonight's presentation, there's sewer, water, storm drainage, and transportation at that site. So I will be in favor of this request. Thank you. I don't know if other people would like to provide additional input or...
TJ.
Thank you. Sure. The first thing we look at here is we have a zone map and a comprehensive plan amendment, and we say, oh, geez, the UAPC denied and by a narrow margin, and DLCD had these things to say. But when you step back and you look at the holistic picture of these things and the information that provided, I'm sold that this criterion's met. And we are going to have to back that up and substantiate it with evidence that we've seen by Gerlitz Engineering. So I'm willing to make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan and zone map amendment.
Is there a second? Seconded by Dwayne. All right, before we have further discussion on that, I would like Brad to just clarify what the council needs to do in terms of identifying the criteria and how they're being met.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. So here are the 3 comprehensive plan findings, the criterion that the Planning Commission found were not met. So 13.5.4, so let me actually, I think you can reference that on the slide deck. The actual language is here. Consistency with other findings, goals, and policies in the comprehensive plan, and specifically element 8. So I think what is necessary is that there is a clear finding by the City Council that the goals, the purposes, the policies of element 8 are met. And that, again, needs to be on the record, and I know that Councilor Riker did identify a few things in his statement. Criterion B, a change in circumstances validated by and supported by the database. You could also just read that comprehensive plan, which would necessitate a change in the findings. I think that's just a somewhat vague way of saying what is the change that needs to go from industrial to commercial. Why specifically does there need to be a removal of 5.5 acres of industrial to commercial? And then finally, the goals and policies of the state of Oregon. So they have 19 land use planning goals. 15 to 19 aren't applicable to us. So there's 14 of those. But again, the only one that the Planning Commission found not met was Goal 9. That's the State Economic Development Goal 9. So that is, again, where you would need to find in the record evidence that speaks to inventory of land, and it speaks to jobs. So I think that those would be two important elements that the council would need to put on the record to help reverse the commission's decision.
Thank you, Brad. I also just want to clarify, DJ, with your motion, because I think maybe you said the comprehensive plan map and the zoning map in one motion, and Aaron is suggesting that we do those as two motions. So if you want to pursue this, could I just have you clarify, starting with the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and Dwayne, are you okay with the motion being to approve the comprehensive plan amendment? Thank you. Okay. So I just want to make sure we do this the right way. So we do need to identify those criteria as you make your discussion and decision here. Valerie and then Brian.
Well, something to me that was very visible was just in terms of how it is just adjacent, and obviously that block currently is retail and commercial. So I don't know if that's the zoning or the comprehension plan, but it seems to me that that area currently is being used more commercially than it is industrially. So I think that gives us a little bit of pull to say, just looking at what's around it, that is appropriately used. I also will say that I know that currently we are working on Spalding to bring water and sewer to that area. And we are also, because of the fact that we have brought in within the last few months water and sewer up to the northern end, that makes us closer to serviceable than previously in terms of large lots. And I will just say that the history has shown that most of the industrial, and I will say this, being on the CEDC and being involved in economics in our area and watching what happens when people come into our area, is they're looking for larger pieces of land, and so larger, flatter pieces of land. And that is why, as a region, a lot of our business does go to White City, is because we don't have that available. So I think that with the northern and with Spalding that we will be offsetting it. And I would agree with Justin also that because of they are reducing the amount of growth that they're expecting over the next 10 years from Portland State, that also gives us, power to say, well, we don't need as much industrial land as may have been thought of when we first built this industrial plan in 2008, which is originally where it was. Was that based on 2008 or 2014? I think it was based on the very 2014. Oh, 14, okay. 2014, but that we don't need it as much as we did then. So those are just some thoughts I think we could put in there to hit the mark.
Brian, and then DJ, and then Dwayne.
Yeah, this topic's going a little long, so I'll keep it brief. I came in thinking I was going to want to remand this back to the UAPC. After hearing everything I've heard, I think I'm comfortable moving forward. I think on the topic of economic development, I'm not sure how rigid those definitions are, but with us being, more of a tourist community, I think that there's an argument that having an RV park will bolster the economic development of that part of town at the very least. So in addition with Rick's reasons, I will be in favor.
DJ?
Sure, addressing the element 8 for the economy, city will ensure that adequate quality and quantity industrial land is available and serviced by utilities. It's been demonstrated the north end has plentiful amount of industrial land that is anticipated here shortly to be serviced by utilities. Furthermore, we've seen tonight that in the last 10 years, given halfway through our urban area expansion, the current utilization for industrial land is nowhere near going to catch up with just the inventory we have, let alone the anticipated further expansion for more industrial area. And I think that demonstrates clearly element 8 is satisfied.
Further discussion? All right. DJ, you made the motion to move forward with approving the comprehensive plan amendment. How do you vote?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0. Rick?
I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve the zone map amendment for 36-5-16cc tax lot 600, 700 from industrial to general commercial.
Seconded by Dwayne. Discussion on that? All right. No discussion. Rick, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. All right. That concludes our business on that hearing. Next up, we are considering an ordinance that would amend the Grants Pass Municipal Code, Chapter 5.57, regulating feeding, shelter, and care of colonies of stray and feral cat communities.
Right.
Go ahead,
Good evening,
Aaron.
Mayor, Council, members of the public. I'm here to intro the subject of feral community cats. This ordinance would amend the municipal code, as the mayor mentioned, with regards to regulating in the city parks and city property, feeding, sheltering, care of colonies, strays, or feral community cats, and they would be prohibited. Just a brief background for you. At its May 15th, 2023 council meeting, council passed a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Josephine County Spade and Neuter for the provisions of trap, neuter release services and shelter services and feeding for cats in Baker Park. A year later, we asked for a report from the Josephine County Spade and Neuter, and they provided that report. Subsequent conversations expressed that there were several domesticated cats that were dropped off at Baker Park and through Josephine County Humane Society and the Spade and Neuter group. They were picked up and sent for adoption, but that there was not the trapping, neutering, or releasing of cats during that year. On June 13th, 2024, the Parks Advisory Committee discussed the public's feeding of community feral cats and the safety and welfare of all park users, including other wildlife that would be beneficial to also look at potentially changing the municipal code, making it unlawful for any person to feed or care for feral cats on the property. So the Parks Advisory Committee took it upon themselves to take on the subject of feeding of feral or / community cats in public spaces. Through that discussion, at its June 13th meeting, they did make a recommendation to council. The council consider making it unlawful to do so. At council's July 1st, 24 workshop, council reviewed the park committee's motion and direction was provided to staff to draft the ordinance that's in front of you today, which would prohibit feeding and sheltering of feral / community cats. Behind me here on the screen is the language that would be included in the code. It basically states that it would be unlawful for any person to intentionally provide food, water, and shelter or sustenance for those cats within city limits. That it does provide an opportunity to not apply for any licensed animal control officers or agents acting upon the scope of their official duties and individuals participating in some kind of TNR program. Your call to action today is at your discretion. There are a number of alternatives for you to consider. Adopt the ordinance as presented, adopt the ordinance with changes, move to additional discussion, whether a workshop or a business meeting, take no action. And then also there might have been some confusion also about an additional consideration. We're talking about the code change right now to not allow feeding or providing sustenance to feral community cats. The other issue that is a separate issue would be what would you like to do with the contract with the spade and neuter group for Josephine County? But that is a separate issue. That's not really an issue for tonight, but you could take that on or provide direction to staff at some future meeting or tonight. Cost, there is none anticipated, and there's a potential motion on the screen. With that, I turn over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Aaron. Joel and then Val.
Thank you, Aaron. I have a question. The way the code revision is written, it says within the city limits. Was there a reason why we didn't say just within the public land on parks within the city limits? 'Cause I know several people have chosen to do it and they have a spay and release program in their backyard.
Well, if you'd like to make that modification and have city property instead of city limits, you can definitely make that modification.
Okay, thank you. Was there a reason why it was written the way it was?
Well, I think one of the things is looking at what other communities have also done. It has been in some have listed city limits, some have listed city property, but one of the concerns would be making sure that you're covering if a residential home or even a commercial location is harboring feral / community cats and feeding them, that may create some issues within the surrounding area.
Is there any other code such as a public nuisance cover that as well, though?
It could potentially cover a portion of that.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie.
Yeah, I just have clarity on B, Part B, number 2. It says individuals participating in an authorized trap, neuter, return program, providing they have registered with the local animal control authority and comply with all program requirements. So you're saying that if they are part of a trap, neuter, return program, they can take the cats to get them neutered and bring them somewhere else? I guess I'm not exactly sure what that entails.
So this was a clause that if you do pass this ordinance, it would provide an opportunity on, say, for instance, public property, and say, for instance, a park, to, upon your authority and approval, approve a contract, sort of like what we have right now, for an authorized trap, neuter, and return program to exist. But that in general, it would not be allowed for the general public to do so.
So as it is that currently exists, it can actually happen underneath this, as long as it's
If you approve either Humane Society, another nonprofit, or a specific group that you've approved, and we have a contract with that group, and you so desire to have that contract, that's something that could be approved. It's providing that option for you.
All right, we've had a lot of hands, so here's your order. Brian, then Dwayne, then Rob, then DJ.
Thank you. So just to be clear, following up on what Valerie was asking, so Josephine County Spay and Neuter, we currently have an agreement with them, so would this not be applicable to that group?
This could be applicable to that group if you so desire.
But the way it's written, it's not.
This is a new code, and we'd want to make sure we reaffirm the contract that it would fit under this new code. So we would have that contract come in front of you again in conjunction with this, and you'd want to review that contract and then approve it. So you could approve that contract with the passage of this.
Okay. Also, I was curious if you or staff or anyone on council happens to know, I know that they've been doing this activity in Baker Park for many, many years. Do we have any idea about how long that's been taking place?
So I think that might be a question not for me, for us from a standpoint of we've had this contract in place for a year. And I think there's information out there that might show that in years past there may have been some trapping, spade, neuter release. I think more recently it's been more of just sustaining and helping provide necessities for the current cat population that exists right now.
Okay, thanks.
Dwayne.
I'm just going to ask a refresher to my mind. During this ordinance last year, it was, if I'm right, staff recommended and our attorney recommended not to do this at that point. Was that correct? To get into this agreement and have a contract?
Council moved and wanted this contract in place, and staff provided a contract for your approval, and council approved that contract.
But I remember our lawyer said that he did not recommend it, but it was up to staff.
There were some caveats associated with having such a contract that were addressed at that time, a little over a year ago when we brought this in front of council.
And since we had this thing, do you remember how many times we've had, I know that our council's not here anymore, how many times we've had to have the meetings with them for not doing what they said they were going to do?
We had some initial meetings when we were looking at formulating the contract itself. We had multiple meetings with some of the representatives of the Josephine County Spade and Neuter Group. We entered into the contract, and then we went a year without really having a lot of meetings with them, and then asked for a report on the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Rob.
So I pretty clearly remember asking the same question the last time this was before the council, and I'm still very unclear on exactly what problem are we trying to solve. Has there...
Hey, everybody, no outbursts of applause. Thank you.
Has there been, well, let me just go back. When I was on council in 2009, we actually had complaints of feral cats in some of the neighborhoods around the park, et cetera, private areas, not publicly owned land. And there were a lot of people that were really up in arms that feral cats had taken over their neighborhood, and they were pushing council to do something, which I'm not sure what happened then. But at this point, what's driving this whole issue? Have there been many complaints? Because usually we're kind of complaint driven when we want staff to really do anything. It's, oh, is there a complaint? If not, okay, then the neighborhood's fine. What complaints happen here, and what is driving this? How did this even get here?
Sure, I'll try to address it with two potential answers. One is, this was not a staff or community directed program to begin with over a year ago. This was council driven. So there are some council members that had an interest in looking at exploring the regulations of trap, spade, and neutering in Baker Park. And based on council's direction, we researched and legal counsel developed a contract for your consideration based on council's direction, and you ultimately adopted that. So that began and was housed originally with council over a year ago. Here this summer, the Parks Advisory Committee, and Councilor King being a representative of the Parks Advisory Committee was at that meeting, brought it up upon themselves. The Parks Advisory Committee wanted to have a general discussion about the feeding and care of community cats in our parks. And so this is in front of you today based on Parks Advisory Committee. It was not an item that was put on the agenda from a staff perspective. It was your Community Advisory Committee that brought this one forward, made a recommendation to council. Council asked staff to bring this forward in a code change revision for your consideration at tonight's meeting.
So as far as you know, it wasn't complaint driven?
I think, Joel, are you wanting to answer this question? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm
Joel.
actually asking staff. I'm asking staff, excuse me.
I can tell you what the
Excuse me, I'm asking the staff, Joel. You can have your say afterwards.
Well, I'm talking on behalf of the Parks Committee.
Were there complaints
All right,
lodged with
guys.
the city?
On the Parks Committee.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
I'm just asking if there are complaints lodged
So
with the city,
what-
and I have the floor. Thank you, Joel.
What I would say is, again, just to reiterate sort of what I said before, is not necessarily a complaint, but it was concerns from council that originally initiated this and the ultimate contract. And then it was concerns from the Parks Advisory Committee that dealt with this. I do not personally have any phone calls that came into me that was complaining about this.
All right, DJ, did you have a question?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it in the beginning and then you just retouched on it. I just wanted to remind everybody in the room that this came from Parks Advisory Committee. They've recommended to council that we entertain this ordinance here before us today, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Joel?
So the Parks Committee, they discussed several things, and I'll summarize them for you. This article from the University of California and the issues that they've had down in California and other parks. First one was diseases and parasites. And they can result in accumulation where the diseases and parasites are specifically associated with cat feces. They list a bunch of diseases. Some people are at higher risk of serious disease or complication. They include very young children and elderly people. That's why fecal cat colonies, that's why the parks are important. Fecal cat colonies fed by people on or near school properties, parks, hospitals, and other areas where such groups have found put these people at higher risk. They go through a bunch of other parasites, impacts on other animals. Talked about they can carry rabies, SARS, the feline leukemia virus, which affects cats, and it can be rampant, and female AIDS, Asian flu, then specifically the cat flea. It can carry typhus. In California, they've had typhus epidemics from the fleas on cats, coyotes, opossums, skunks, and raccoons. 80% or more of the feral cats are infested with flea eggs. Let me keep on going here. If you're bitten or scratched by a feral cat, immediately seek medical attention. That's in our park. Predation. Last year in the United States, cats killed 217 million birds. So if you look at where the valley quail is, it's if it's not on the sensitive species list, it should be. When was the last time you saw a valley quail in Riverside Park? When was the last time you saw a valley quail in Baker Park? What?
Joel, I'm sorry. I'm going to let you, hold on, I'm going to let you continue. I want the audience to be quiet. And Joel, please refrain from asking them questions that's, causing that outburst, but please continue.
Okay. Talks about...
and if there are any more outbursts, I can ask the police chief to remove you from the room. Thank you.
And these are nice people and they care, and they need to be heard. I understand that. Proper disposal of cat feces is important to reduce exposure to the pathogens. For cat urine and feces, sanitation is extremely important. Young children who play in sandboxes, for example, used by cats as latrines. I don't know where their latrines are in the park, but they keep on going. Let me talk. There's a couple other things here. They got down here to the fixing. Oop. Hang on here. Anyway, so to be effective with a spaying program and to reduce the population, you have to spay at least 60% of the existing population every year. The existing programs that they have monitored, it was at 2 to 3%. So, and maybe we're better at that here, I don't know. The other thing they talked about in the study was rats. And they actually did studies where there were feral cat colonies and where there weren't. There were more domestic rodents in the areas where there were feral cats because there was food. There was less natural rodents like squirrels, chipmunks. I don't know when was the last time I've seen a squirrel in Baker Park or Tussing Park. It's not what you think it is. I mean, this is not me talking, this is the university. And so that's why the Parks Committee did what they did.
Thanks for the background. Council, do you have any more questions? Brian, did you have a question?
I just had a question for Joel. Since you are the Parks Committee liaison, can you speak a little bit more to how this topic came up at Parks Committee? Like, was it a specific member that brought it up, or how did that come up?
Members brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
Okay.
Valerie.
Yeah, I guess my question is I saw it in my packet, and, you know, I knew it was there, but I didn't see a copy of the contract or a copy of what the people turned in to spay and neuter. So I was just wondering if there was a reason that we didn't get a copy of that in ours. I guess the Parks Committee got it, but we don't have it.
So, yeah, the contract was supposed to be on the dais for you. You did receive the report in a council memo a few months back that provided the report of the spade and neutering that occurred. They were supposed to report on 3 items. How many was trapped, how many were released, how many was like spayed and neutered. And so that report was provided to council in a memo.
Okay, I would have liked to have seen it in the packet since we were talking about it here, so.
There was 0 spade and neuter and release reported in the memo. There were some cats that were more domesticated. According to my conversation with Joko Spade and Neuter, there were some cats that were dropped off at Baker Park that they were able to, and along with Josephine County Animal Control, were able to gather and then put up for adoption.
Any further questions at this time? All right, thank you, Aaron. I know that we have a number of people from the public who want to speak on this, and first we have somebody who's asked to participate.
I do want to mention part of the reason why the contract isn't in there is we're not talking about the contract tonight. We're just talking about feral feeding and harboring of feral/community cats. The contract is a totally separate issue. That's not up for discussion this evening. If it was up for discussion, that would have been included.
So basically, we're just talking about the feeding of the cats in the park.
You're just talking about the code change associated with the recommendation from the Parks Committee. You're not talking about the contract tonight. That's why it's not included.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a member of the public who has requested to participate remotely, so we'll have her go first, and then we'll have people in the room. Laura Ahern, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, yes.
We can hear you.
Hello. Okay, thank you. My name's Laura Ahern. I have been engaged in animal welfare work for over 21 years, an animal shelter manager, executive director of a rescue group. I also had a 19-year career as an attorney representing local governments, including 2 municipalities. First, I want to note that the description of this item in your agenda is not consistent with what is actually in the language of your ordinance. It's been noticed to the public that you're talking about stray and community cats, and that is not what is in the language of your ordinance at all. Those in the field know that these are very different definitions, and this only amplifies what I believe is a fatal ambiguity in the ordinance language that's before you today. I'll explain that. I have 4 working cats. I think that most normal people on the street would say, oh, those are feral cats, Laura, but they are my property. I would like to know if any of you can tell me here, if you adopt this ordinance, are my working cats feral cats, or my 4 working cats a feral colony within the meaning of your ordinance or not? I mean, this is a very ambiguous language when you are talking about essentially criminalizing conduct, good work that has been pursued by dedicated members of your community to try and address what we all acknowledge is a common matter of public concern. We all need to work together in the most effective way to help and manage and limit the number of unhoused, unwanted cats in our community. Now, I feel strongly that my working cats, my outdoor cats, should be vaccinated for rabies.
Ma'am.
No rabies is in Josephine and Jackson.
Thank you, your time is up. No, that goes quick, and she can't see the lights. But for the rest of you here in the room, if you haven't participated before, there is a light system. When the yellow light comes on, you have 30 seconds left, and when the red light comes on, it means your time is done. So please wrap up quickly so I don't have to interrupt you. We have some people who fill out the blue card, so I'll have you go first, and then anybody else who wants to go after, you're welcome to stand up and do that. I'm going to have Mike Slotemaker, then Judy Hissock, Lisa Raskin, and Catherine Hamilton. And I expect that we're going to proceed without outbursts from the audience. Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Already on? Okay, thank you. Good evening, city leadership. My name is Mike Slotemaker. I'm a resident of Grants Pass. I live in the very first house upstream from Baker Park. My woods start 86 feet from the abutment of the Parkway Bridge. We have 11 acres of woods, so I am probably the most qualified person to speak about the feral cat colony in this room. I do not complain about the cats. I have not had a rat problem in the last several years. I believe it's because of the cats. Every morning I check my cameras. I have at least half a dozen cat videos of the cats running around the yard. We cohabitate very well. One time in the last 2 years have I seen a cat run by with a bird in its mouth. But we get to sit on the deck and watch them try, and it's fun. We've given them names. I can't speak to what happens to the people that are feeding the feral cats, but they live in my woods, and they come near the house, and I get to see them, and I appreciate all the work that goes into it. We have people here that will be speaking after me that go in every day to feed and care for these cats. They're healthy, they're thriving. I did see some kittens about a month ago. I contacted somebody at work. I now have 2 cat traps in my garage, so when we see the kittens come around, we're going to capture them so that we can get them in to get spayed, neutered, or rehomed. We're going to leave that to the professionals to decide, but I've got instructions for how to trap the cats, which involves leaving food out for them, which I might now have to do illegally or do it 87 feet from the abutment of the bridge. So it's one of these things where I look at it and say, it's been great, I've enjoyed it. I would encourage you to allow it to continue. Definitely not a complaint coming from the most qualified guy to speak to what's happening with the feral cats. Councilor King, I recognize that you're bringing something from a committee. I don't know where you stand on this, but I know you've done your duty to bring this to the attention, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Judy Hissock.
Hi. I don't live in town. I live in the county. But I will come into the town and I will feed cats. I will not sit by and watch them starve, and I don't think your children will want to see starving cats. Thank you.
Lisa Raskin.
Thank you, everybody. As you know, last year I was before you for the same thing. My name is Lisa Raskin. My father was Carl Raskin, who owned Elegance and also founded Joco Spay and Neuter. As for how long we've been feeding the cats down at Baker Park, sir, over 20 years. Never had a problem. Never. As for the study down in California, that's California. That's not here. But I can tell you that cats that get fed have no need to go after birds. There's no need for it. You can roll your eyes, but I see firsthand, and I'm telling you, there's not a cat down there that's going to mess with a Canadian goose. It's just not going to happen. So, and I've never seen a dove down there. I've never seen a quail down there or any of these other birds that you've talked about, and you've mentioned it again last year too. But I do want to bring up the fact that we do trap these cats. We do get them spayed and neutered. If we can rehome them, we rehome them. If we can't, we release them back into the colony. They get vet checked before we bring them back. They're healthy. If we see a sick cat, we take it out of the park. We're helping out also because our animal shelter has lost funding. No people out there to work on Saturdays. Less room for, you know, dropping off cats. Guess what happens to them? They get dumped down at the parks. So we're providing a service. It's coming out of our pockets, not coming out of your guys' pocket. Not a dime is spent by the city on this. So allow us to please continue doing this, and let's work together. There's more important things to be worried about than some cats down at Baker Park. Please. Thank you.
Catherine Hamilton.
Catherine Hamilton County. There's a lot of misinformation about feral cats. The First Lady brought up some very valid points. As far as being scratched by a feral cat, that ain't a feral cat unless it's in a trap. You're not going to get near a feral cat. You're going to see the eyeballs at night. You're going to see them streak past bushes. A lot of misinformation out there. The cats that are going to claw people are probably cats that have been dumped by irresponsible pet owners. And there's a lot of them out there, especially with everything that's been going on in the parks of late. If you're concerned about diseases, well, look what we can get from outhouses. Look what we can get from needles. Look what we can get from baggies of fentanyl. Let's not just blame the cats. The birds, well, cats are predatory animals, and there's going to be some that are going to be munched. That's life. As far as the cats in Baker Park, I don't want to go down to Baker Park. I can carry a gun. I don't want to go down there. If there's people that haven't been giving reports or haven't been checking the traps, which I'm sure they are, because when you have a colony, a person who's in charge of a colony, those are their children. They are down there. They are feeding those cats. But I don't want to go down to Baker Park. I mean, it's a war zone. It's scary. Hopefully in the next week or so, it's going to settle down. But you need to get your facts straight. If you spent 4 hours in a car freezing to death because you don't want to turn your car on, and you're hoping you're going to get that mama cat that's been out there for a couple years, that's been having baby after babies, then speak on this. Otherwise, get some information. If you want to help out, get some spay and neuter around here. I'm on a 3-month wait for a cancellation for a dog. We need spay and neuter. That would really, really help this county, or all counties.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak on this issue? Please step forward, state your name, let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Your clicker's here. My name is Mike Pelfrey. I do live in the city, and I can tell you I pretty much live in Reinhardt Park. We have feral cats there as well. And my neighbor, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, she looked out her kitchen window and she saw a homeless person taking a bath in her swimming pool. Now, you know what she's never seen? A damn cat in her pool. She's never seen a cat swimming in her pool. I think this subject is almost beyond stupid. And I think that, you're wasting our time, you're wasting your time too. I have more concerns with the feral humans in our community versus the feral cats. We got a lot more issues. I lay in bed at night, and you know what I don't hear? I don't hear cats yelling at each other because somebody lost their fentanyl, or you're mad at me because our tent caved in. No, we don't have, cats are the least of our problem in our community. So come on, get real. Let's do something about let's work on something that's actually really important to our community. Cats' lives matter.
Hello. I'd like to speak on behalf of the feral cats. I have extensive knowledge and experience with them.
Can you
And so
please
this
tell us
was-
your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Lisa Lamb. Thank you for hearing me. So when I saw this come up on your agenda, I had to speak because I have to speak for the silent. It just breaks my heart. What you need to know is that feral communities will never go away. Why? Because of irresponsible human beings. People are the problem. This is why they're homeless, okay? Unfortunately, there are very few who care enough to actually try to help with this problem. Often they do it with their own money and resources and spending many stressful hours caring for unwanted and misunderstood population. I know. Rescuers know that for every cat you feed, you must fix. And most of you probably do not even realize that it is actually the cat feeders who are keeping the feral population down. One unfixed feral cat will lead to hundreds of kittens, and that's why rescuers work very hard. I just want you to know this, even with resistance and often anger from the community. Please know that if you make it illegal to feed ferals, this will not stop your rescuers. Instead, what you're doing is now putting rescuers and feeders in dangerous environments because they will venture out into the dark of the night in fear of being caught. They care that much about providing relief for frightened and hungry animals. What is the solution? A community-wide education program on spaying and neutering pets and a generous amount of support for rescue organizations. They need money. They need to spay the cats. People need help, okay? They can't wait in lines for months. Cats are procreating. All communities also need to benefit from an annual animal sanctuary. We need to stop putting all the responsibility on a few and take a community-wide approach. All creatures deserve compassion and they deserve to live, and we need to stand for the broken and speak for the silent. Remember this, it's the humans that cause the problem.
Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you
Your
so
time's
much.
up.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lindquist, and I'm the president of the Toby Fund. And just so you know, we've spayed and neutered over 60 feral cats this year. And just so you also know, cats don't know a boundary. So you can say, stay out of the park, but they'll do what they want. And regardless of where you feed them, they're going to be everywhere. So I just want to impress upon you guys the fact that we have a lot of people out there that are trap, neuter, return, and we also vaccinate so that we don't have to worry about the diseases. But I would really impress upon you that this doesn't make any sense, and you're not even talking about just the Baker Park, you're talking about everywhere public property. And again, you know, a lot of people have their sanctuaries where they feed their community cats on their own property, but they also do it in parks, they do it in abandoned lots, they do it all over the place, wherever the cats are, because the cats will go where they want, and they belong to an area. They don't belong to a person, they belong to an area. And so it's really, you can't even rehome feral cats very well because of that. So please don't consider this as something we need to do.
Good evening, Brenda Sisson, County. At the beginning of the presentation, I was looking for something on there that said, "This is brought to you by Babylon Bee." It was just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? This is absolutely the most comical subject that I have ever seen in this chamber, ever. We've dealt with the homeless people for years. Cats dig little holes and go poop. Homeless people don't have that courtesy. And as far as the scratching, if that ever happens, there's more chances of stepping on a fentanyl needle or a methadone needle out in the park than a cat scratching anybody. And we've dealt with this for years. And now, finally, we're going to get our parks back. Finally, we have another problem in the parks. Doggone it. Now we've got the feral cats. And we've got actual people that want to go feed them. Oh, no, no, no. We got to make that outlawed. Let's make them criminals. We have had criminals, real criminals, in our parks for years. And now you want to make good-hearted people that goes out there and want to feed little kitty cats. There are already people out there that are helping neuter, catching them, and etc. And that's what I got to say. Leave it alone. Let it just go organically. Let people be happy. Let the cats be happy. Thank you.
Marie Bayes, since this was sprung on us without notice, I scrambled around this afternoon.
Can you
trying
pull
to
that
find some
microphone down a little bit,
information.
ma'am?
Excuse me?
Can you pull the microphone down?
Oh.
Thank you.
Did you hear anything? Okay. Anyhow, I found some information from the ASPCA, which I sent to every council member, and I hope you read it. It contradicts everything that group in California says. You know, about the, let's see, the latest studies show that when cat populations are removed, rat populations grow, birds disappear. Most rabies is transmitted by wildlife, not cats, whether they're feral or house cats. And all studies, and another thing too is, I don't know if you guys are prepared to spend all this money if you take all the helpers out of the parks. It costs a lot more to euthanize. And I believe some of that information is with that ASPCA paperwork that I sent out. But anyhow, if we're not allowed to feed and monitor, which is the most important thing, monitor the cats for their health, you know, and to see if there are any new ones, any sick ones, you know, and take care of those. We have done, there were 11 cats that were dumped there last year, plus 8 babies. All of those were either, they were all spayed and neutered by us, by Joko Spay and Neuter. And well, anyhow, the other thing is that it's much more cost effective to help with the TNR than, you know, euthanasia, you know, anything else like that. And it's much more effective. And it's best way to, and most humane way to reduce the population. And it's really the only humane right thing to do. We need to pull together as a community and, you know, solve this problem. Encourage more people. And people are ignorant. That's why they take in kittens, they dump them when they're tired of them. We need education.
Thank
you know,
you,
people
ma'am.
need
Your
to
time is up.
understand what the problem is and help. Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name is Shoni Nelson. I reside here in Grants Pass, Oregon, the city. And I think maybe you messed up when you said cats as in, you know, cats as in 9 lives, etc. Maybe you meant cats with a Z. And if it was cats with a Z, right, the cats camping in the parks, that kind of thing, then I think that would have really worked and helped with the problem. Because if you really follow, all right, the cat that chases the mouse and that kind of thing, and you went, okay, we got a bunch of people being fed in the parks that are urban campers in the parks. Said food is being left in the parks, making for trash, which makes for rats, which then the cats clean up those rats. To where if we get rid of those cats that are cleaning up those rats, but not the food that was given to the people that's making the trash in said parks. You get where I'm going here? All right? So maybe move the sites where you're feeding the people, if that's the problem, to someplace else. And maybe right along with it, the piles of trash that are being left in the parks as well. Thank you very much. Have an amazing day.
Hi, my name is Janine Brown. I'm a licensed veterinary nurse. I've co-owned and operated a veterinary hospital for 28 years. And I've been trapping and releasing and helping feral cats for quite a few years. Excuse me. And there were some misstatements from you, Councilor King, in that article. Feline leukemia is not contagious to humans. It's species specific. I'm a senior and I have a very poor immune system. And I've been doing this most of my life. and I've never caught a disease from a cat. I recently had 10 cats spayed and neutered on my own. I've taken them to local clinics and up to Roseburg to a spay-neuter clinic. And when I drop them off, I sit up there all day for about 6 hours and wait for them and bring them back. I have receipts to prove that every cat has been spayed, given a rabies vaccine, a distemper vaccine, and a 3-month flea prevention. And that also kills internal parasites. So cats that I feed won't even eat the wrong flavor of cat food, let alone an old rat or a bird. And you know, they don't kill animals. They're very particular. But I ask that you please don't do this. I go out 365 days of the year and take care of these animals, and I can't watch them starve to death. Please don't do this. Thank you.
Hello, thanks. My name is Chris Fifield, and I live in Williams, but I've done a lot of TNR work in Grants Pass, and I've worked with Joco Spay and Neuter a lot. And everyone's pretty much said our case. You know, we have like a pretty strong little chorus here, all saying the same things. And the only thing I want to add to that is, if the goal is to reduce the population of uncared for cats, this is the opposite of what you need to do. You're gonna, it's already hard work. I mean, it's demoralizing work. It's overwhelming. It's stressful. It's sad. Creating another barrier between us and this work. You're essentially, another way to look at it is, you basically have a little army of unpaid public servants. And if you're going to put this barrier in their way, it's cruel. It's cruel to the animals and to the people who are, working so hard. So, I guess that's it. I just want to add my voice to the chorus that I think this is a really if the goal, I understand the goal, but if the goal is to reduce their population, this is going to backfire. So I really hope that it doesn't go through. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bobby Goodwin. Recently, or in the past year, I have had the opportunity to trap try to release several cats in our neighborhood. My sisters live in California. They both are rescuers and trap and release. They'll go out and they'll feed the community cats, trap them, bring them back, release, or get them fixed, their shots, and release them. I thought this was novel work, so I decided, okay, I'll go ahead and noble work, and I thought I'd go ahead and do the same because we had so many in our neighborhood. Boy, I tell you, it's been rewarding. These babies, you're right, they have not been necessarily released because so many people have jumped on board to go ahead and take these babies in and keep them, domesticate them, or use them as barn animals. Barn Buddies is a great program. So many people know you go out to your vehicle, your wires are chewed up by the rats. My husband, he wouldn't have let me take in all these cats if there wasn't that little gleam of hope that he wouldn't have to replace the wiring in his car. But also, with the parks and everything out here, the same thing. We're talking, you're going to divide a community. We've got a community of people. You're going to have people policing people. You're also, the cost of policing that, what are we going to, are we going to have our men and women in blue go out there and give tickets? We're going to have the cost for the courts arguing their tickets or their fines. Are they going to be fines? Are we going to just take the cats and euthanize them? That costs money. Through Joco and through Toby Fund and several others, I've been able to go ahead and get my cats spayed and neutered and send them back into the world or keep them for myself.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Good evening. This nice gentleman, nice dressed gentleman came up, and if I heard him correctly, he said that none of the animals were spayed this year. Sounds like that contract is failing.
Did you state your name?
Oh, Stephen Yvonne.
Thank you.
Said that the contract was failing, so the solution is to put more restrictions on the citizens to not allow us to feed the cats. Is that what I'm understanding? The program that was set up to take care of the feral cats, so far as we say, feral cats, but to take care of the population of the cats, that program doesn't seem to be working, so instead, the resolution is to focus all the attention on the citizens, the Good Samaritans that are actually going outside the realm and taking care of these cats. So now you're asking the community to sit back and watch these cats just starve to death. Doesn't sound very humane. Sounds like the Humane Society and whoever this contract is being supposed to be withdrawn from and impact the actual cause for it to take care of these cats. But instead, we're criminalizing the Good Samaritans that are feeding these cats. This doesn't make any sense at all. I'm sure this gentleman has a very nice situation and explanation for all of this, but why are we taking it out on these Good Samaritans? I just saw some people crying in here over cats. This isn't right. You know, this community has also grown. With us growing, also the animals grow. We're actually overpopulating the situation to where the cats don't have a lot of places to go either. Then when you have all these people that are going homeless, they don't have places to feed their own cats, so now their cats turn feral. So now we have a big problem, and instead of these Good Samaritans being allowed to feed them, and the spay and neuter program not operating like it's supposed to, we're criminalizing the citizen. Doesn't sound fair.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak on this issue?
Hi, my name is Linda Milner. I'm actually the president of the JOCO Spay and Neuter Fund. And I'm just here to tell you that we have fixed, probably 17 or 18,000 animals since we started our program, and we paid for every bit of it ourselves. And we have, the reason you don't see reason you see a zero at Baker Park is because we control it. We have the animals that are there are all fixed. They've always been fixed. They stay there. We leave them there. That's where we're feeding. We had like 13 or 14 or maybe more, but some of the dogs at the park killed some of them. So we've tried to protect them, keep them happy, keep them fed, but we have taken cats out of there. We take them and get them fixed, so we don't leave any domesticated cats in the park. So this is what we've done. We spend a lot of money, do a lot of fundraising, and like I said, it's just to take care of these animals. So, and you don't have to pay a penny. We pay it all. So there's no money coming out of your pocket. So we have not failed in this program. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak on this?
I'm Sky. I live in the city. This is my first meeting. I've never done this before. I had no idea this topic existed until we started talking about it like an hour ago now. It seems like a long time. We spent like an hour on the previous topic. There was a lot of data, a lot of studies done. I looked this up. I can't find a single study that supports not feeding cats. It actually makes the problem worse. I'm interested if anybody here has ever seen a single study that says that this works. I mean, it doesn't. That's all I'm saying is there's no data to support this. That's it.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close public comment and turn the issue back to the council for discussion. Brian.
Wow. Yeah, we are almost an hour into this again. We did this last year too, as many of you know. So, council and government is not known for being the most efficient, but I'm just going to lead off and say I appreciate all the comments. I don't see an issue at the park. The group has been doing this for 20-plus years, and there hasn't been complaints from the community, and I'm just going to make a motion to dismiss this and move on with the meeting so we're not here till 11 p.m.
Seconded by Valerie. Any discussion on that? Joel and then Rob.
So first of all, I want to thank people, and I'm sorry that you have to come out. I heard what you said. I heard what you said, loud and clear. I have good friends that catch cats, spay them, and release them, and they do a good job. I have some problems with the way this was worded also, because it includes everything in the city. And that is counterproductive, because there's people out there like yourself, probably the majority of people, that are doing good things. I do have some concerns about our existing contract. We had 6 spayed or 8 spayed, and that's one litter of kittens. And I walked through the parks, and Riverside Park the other day, there was another new litter. We don't need to take up another hour of your time to talk about it, but we need to look at that, because that's not working, and go from there. So, and I'll vote for Brian's motion based on what people said, and I thank you for coming out.
Rob.
Okay, so to start this off, I asked the city manager if we had any complaints, if this was complaint-driven. Apparently not, 0. We didn't have a single person tonight that seems to have any problem with it, 0. Some councilors, I guess, are comfortable with the fact that our Parks Committee thinks that this is important. And I'm just going to say that not every motion from every committee has merit. I value the Parks Committee. They do a lot of good stuff. This particular motion, in my opinion, has no merit whatsoever. This is, in my opinion, the single biggest waste of time that the council, the citizens, and the staff have ever engaged in. I hope we never break that record. Now, just one last thing. Joel took quite a bit of time explaining to us that a professor in California believes that there are many reasons for us to be very afraid of cats. Okay, I would venture to say that if we had that same department from that same university, they could probably write just as long a report on all the reasons we should be very afraid of birds and bird poop falling from the sky. But I mean, let's get real here. I mean, can we just move on, council? Because we are not solving any problem. There's been no complaints. No complaints tonight. Not a single person thinks that action needs to be taken to solve this situation that I'm not going to call a problem. And I just can't believe it got this far. We're wasting a lot of time.
DJ.
Well, what I know is that if I go to any state or federal park, you don't feed the bears, you don't feed the badgers, you don't feed the birds, you don't feed the fish, you don't feed the pigeons, you don't feed the ducks, you don't feed the geese. But people want to feed the cats in this community. We just heard from the president of the Spayed and Neuter Foundation saying, this is where we bring them, this is where we want to feed them. Okay. Okay.
It's not a duck.
Vanessa.
The original genesis of this, that was a question that was asked earlier, is where did this come from initially? And unfortunately, in 2023, this issue was brought forward by the displeasure of, I believe, 1 or maybe 2 counselors. So now that we have spent an hour of everyone's time, we've had selfless volunteers here, visibly emotional because their work is threatened because of the issue taken by 1 or 2 counselors. So I would like the record to say that. And not only is this entire discussion, this ordinance before us this evening, cruel, but it's also short-sighted because we're targeting these volunteers that are trying to solve an issue that they did not create. It's an issue that they are simply dealing with for the community. So not only is it a colossal waste of time, not only is it cruel, and it's also short-sighted. Additionally, I am concerned that this issue will come before us again. We've heard more than once that maybe people want to revisit the contract. So rather than us having this discussion holistically, we're going to splice it up. So we'll have potentially another meeting about cats in the future, which I'm hoping we do not. I'm hoping we can allow these volunteers to do the work that they've been doing for 2 decades, largely invisibly and largely in the shadows, just because there's a couple of totes that are displeasing to one person or 2 people. I don't think that that rises to the occasion for us to have had this discussion this evening. I will be voting yes to dismiss.
Dwayne.
Well, I already told you I wanted to dismiss this thing, but I just think the way this is written is so ridiculous. Because we can't even keep dogs on leashes in the park, so. I mean, not that I'm the big cat feral lover. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but I mean, our law enforcement's just got other things to do than go around and cite people, and they can't even do the dogs. So I just think this was a waste too. I think more of it's the contract that was written was the problem, not the going around and citing people for feeding cats. I think that's 2 different things, and so I'd love to move on an hour ago. Thank you.
And yet, 3 counselors did ask for this to come before us tonight, and that's why we're here. So we have a motion to dismiss. Is there any further discussion? All right, Brian, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Well, I see unanimity on council. It's probably because it's an election year, but I'm going to vote yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
No.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
I think those concerns are real. I think it needs to be just on public land. Private people need to be respected in what they're trying to do because they're doing good work, so I'm going to vote no.
And Rob?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-2. All right. And I'm not going to put this issue back on the agenda for at least another year. All right, let's just take a 5-minute recess while the audience clears the room. We'll convene at 8:07. All right. We are going to get started back again, and the next item on our agenda is considering Housing Opportunity Fund grant. So Amber, thank you for wading through all that. Take it away.
Good evening. My name is Amber Neek. I'm the city's Housing and Neighborhood Specialist. Today I'm talking to you about a resolution awarding PANO LLC and InkBuilt a Housing Opportunity Fund grant of $238,152 for 15 to 20 affordable home ownership units as part of Allenwood Drive Mixed Income Housing Development. This resolution would award PANO LLC and InkBuilt a Housing Opportunity Fund grant of the $238,152 for 15 to 20 affordable homeownership units, again, as part of Allenwood Mixed Income Housing Development. This relates to council goals under Facilitate Sustainable Manageable Growth by incentivizing the development of affordable housing. For some background, the City of Grants Pass adopted the Affordable Housing Construction Excise Tax in 2021, which is the funding source of the Housing Opportunity Fund. The overall purpose of the CET, per the enabling Senate Bill 1533 in 2016, and its accompanying rules, is to help local jurisdictions address their community's housing needs. The city adopted their construction excise tax investment strategy on February 1st of 2023. This strategy instructed the funds to be split into two categories, one for 80% and below of the area median income for rental housing, and one for 100% area median income and below for home ownership opportunities, allocated by the construction excise tax funding source. A notice of funding availability was prepared by staff and published on April 24th of this year. The deadline for application of submissions was June 21st of this year. We did receive 4 proposals, which were received by the deadline and evaluated by a selection team. The selection team included city staff and members from the city's Housing Advisory Committee. Upon review and scoring of all proposals, PANO LLC and InkBuilt is being recommended for one of the awards for the category of under 100% of the area median income, and the total amount was $238,152. For reference, this is also in your packet. This is the scoring criteria that was used. Again, there are 2 awards being done tonight, so this is the first one. Both use the same criteria. It does offer a total scoring max of 110 points possible if you did tap into 2 of those bonus categories, which is the max allowed. So Allenwood Mixed Income Housing Development is proposing more than just the townhomes, but these are what is being awarded for tonight for this grant. Again, that's 15 to 20 townhomes. These would be affordable home ownership units through the NeighborWorks UMQA program. These serve households earning 80 to 100% of the area median income. So tonight's call to action for this is, it is recommended by, that City Council approve the resolution awarding PANO LLC and InkBuilt the Affordable Housing Opportunity Grant of $238,000. There are some alternatives presented before you, and I do have a potential motion up for you as well.
Thank you, Amber. Council, do you have any questions? Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. So I don't know, maybe I'm not totally up to speed, but the Allenwood property, does this mean that this organization basically is going to have, have they been granted the property, or?
So earlier this year, we did do a request for inquiry on the Allenwood property. We did bring it to council, and they were awarded the essentially exclusive right to negotiate on that property. We also brought towards council earlier this year the next steps in that discussion as well. So yes.
Okay.
And for reference, I forgot to mention, I do have a representative here from the project. Melinda is here from InkBuilt Architecture, if you have any questions for them as well.
Okay, and the 15 to 20 units that they're planning to develop, is there a specific location in the property at this point?
This project is still pretty early on in their planning. They are in works with the city on where things can go with ODOT as well. So there's an idea, but it's too early to say in stone exactly where they'll be on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie?
Yeah, my question is, are they looking for funding from the state, or do they have the funding to move forward with the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So they will be applying for different fundings through the state. They do have a couple different pots that they're applying for through the different phases, essentially. And Melinda will probably have more insight to that than I will.
Thank you.
Rick?
Thank you.
Rick?
Do you know if the funding from the state is only awarded once a year, or is it an ongoing program?
Sure. So until recently, it was a round-robin application. The state did kind of redo the application phase for some of that funding to allow for ongoing application processes.
Any other questions at the moment? All right. Melinda, did you have something you wanted to present? Did you say she's here?
I was.
Oh, on the phone.
I'm on the phone.
Okay, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Melinda Retallick with InkBuilt Architecture. In this property, we're also supporting the development side of the work as well. I don't really have that much more to add unless you have additional questions, but there's a lot of different funding sources that we're working through, the biggest one being Oregon Housing and Community Services and the dollars that are available through the state through the new ORCA process. So we're in that process right now. NeighborWorks Umpqua is one of our partners in that. They're the nonprofit that will be operating all of the units that we're going to develop on this site.
Is it questions, Dwayne? Okay.
Does this have to be used by a certain time, this money?
The contract will have a time period with some granted extension clauses potential in it.
What's the initial contract time?
It's still going to be written up post awarding. Typically, I might defer to Brad on that. We have typical timeframes with those.
We do. Funding agreements that get entered into if council approves these kinds of grant awards typically set, an 18-month is common. That does depend, as Councilor De La Grange was talking about. They don't have site control of the property. The city still fully owns the property. You would see in the future, of course, any further developments in terms of property line adjustments for the park and anything else related to the transfer and the conveyance of ownership, because at this point it's just an exclusive right to negotiate. So that will probably extend that out a little bit. It's certainly up for council if you have specific things you want to see, but they do still need to rezone the property, and they do still need to finalize the site planning, and as Melinda mentioned, the funding as well.
One more question. Do they have an overall plan timeline to develop all this property that we are negotiating with them?
Yeah, they did propose phases. The biggest thing that they're going to need to wait on is getting the property rezoned that we are helping them with and taking the lead on. So that's really going to be the big push. And once that's done, we have a lot more clarity on their timeline. But even with that, we know about how long that can take. So we can make some good faith estimates on how long it would take for them to move forward.
So we don't really have a projected time frame?
Well, the rezone, we're projecting, 4 to 5 months, and
So 7?
I'm sorry?
That was a joke, sorry.
So assuming that goes through, there would be a neighborhood meeting, and then the rest of the funding, gets negotiated. They have to demonstrate that the zoning is in place before they can continue on with most of their funders.
All right, thank you.
Rob.
Yeah, I have a question for the two questions for the applicant. Is she still on the phone?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hi, thank you. First is, how critical is this $238,000 to the viability of your project?
Well, the entire project, we're currently looking at around 130 units to put on the site. And so, I mean, it's a small amount of dollars compared to the biggest chunk of dollars are going to come from the state funds from OHCS. And so I would say, I mean, $238,000, I think everyone understands doesn't even build a single home. If that puts that in perspective.
Sure, thank you. And thank you. And how did you find out about the availability of the CET funds? Do you remember?
Well, we found out about the RFI that was released at the end of last year, and decided to go after the work. We had conversations with city staff and understood that they were really looking to partner with a developer to develop this site. And so we decided to go after it. As a result of making that decision and then being awarded the site, we've been going and looking for whatever funds we can find. There's a lot of different sources from different places. We're planning to put solar on some of these buildings, and so there's energy trust incentives on top of the OHCS. There's a few other pieces. We're going after some ARPA money for some of the infrastructure dollars as well.
So in the course of your discussion with city staff, they brought up or mentioned the construction excise tax potential. Would that be accurate, or?
I'm not sure that they ever mentioned it directly to us when we were having those conversations, but we've been pretty diligent about looking for any of the funds that have been, as they've been released through this kind of no-fail process.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Not right now. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who is wanting to speak to this issue? No. Okay. Well, I'll turn it back to you, council, for discussion. Brian.
I think this is great. We all know that we need housing, and the fact that we're able to get units incentivized for basically $16,000 per unit is a pretty good deal. So I'm glad this project is moving forward, and I'm going to move to approve the resolution awarding PANO LLC and InkBuilt a housing opportunity fund grant of $238,152 for the development of 15 to 20 affordable homeownership units as part of Allenwood Drive mixed income housing development.
Thank you. Seconded by Rick. Discussion on the motion? Vanessa?
Real quick, it's very exciting to see the construction excise tax have success in such a short amount of time after implementing it. So I'm really proud to see that.
Rob?
Yeah, I really, to me, it's also very exciting to see a home ownership project rather than just, because I think that's a really good way to get people to have more civic pride and also personal pride. So I really like this type of project.
Rick and then Dwayne?
I'm also glad to see this project move forward, especially since that's been in our inventory for a while, and to see new homes as a prospect. Thank you.
Dwayne?
I think we all agreed that this project was, we wanted the project needs to move forward, and I'm hoping it'll move forward as fast as possible. And we already have eyes on another one that hopefully we'll be talking about later on tonight, and be doing that one probably after my time here, but it sounds great. Thank you.
All right. No further discussion. Brian, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. All right. Next item up on the agenda is a resolution regarding a Housing Opportunity Fund grant for Chrisman development.
All right, me again. So I will be presenting on a resolution awarding Chrisman Development Incorporated a Housing Opportunity Fund of $241,222 for Nebraska Trail Apartments. This resolution would, that is my bad. That should say Chrisman Development. A Housing Opportunity Fund grant of $241,227 for Nebraska Trail Apartments. This does have the same relationship to council goals by incentivizing the development of affordable housing. Same background timeline for the construction excise tax being put into place. Same background for the timeline of the notice available funding. Upon review and scoring of all those 4 proposals, Chrisman Development is being recommended for the award of the under 80% area median income category, which is for rentals, of the $241,227. Same scoring criteria, so any questions on that, let me know. Nebraska Trail Apartments, they're proposing 51 units total, 9 one-bedroom, 32 bedroom, 12 three-bedroom units. These will serve households with income at or below 60% of the area median income for a period of 60 years minimum. 35 of these units will have project-based Section 8 HUD assistance and will serve households earning at or below 30% of the area median income. The current project costs were estimated at approximately $18.8 million. Chrisman Development will be requesting about $15.5 million for lift in resources. And call to action, again, it's recommended that the City Council approve the resolution awarding Chrisman Development the Affordable Housing Opportunity Grant of $241,227. Again, there are some alternatives up here as well as a potential motion.
Thanks, Amber. Council, do you have questions? Valerie?
I just need to make a statement that I need to recuse myself from this vote because I've been involved with this project from the beginning. My husband has.
All right, you want to step down from the dais then, please? Are there any other questions?
And again, I forgot, we do have a representative from Chrisman. We have Maddie Miller on the phone to answer any questions, who is the project manager.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, thank you. So we've talked about this project before and essentially granted the land for the project. Originally, I see now it's 51 units. Originally, wasn't it more than 51?
Yeah, so we had come to council, I believe it was this year, to amend that contract with their new application under the new LIFT application process. Being able to get this project over the finish line in a timely manner, they found that for the feasibility of the finances, bringing the unit size down just a little bit was necessary to make this project cross that finish line.
Okay, and you said that they were requesting 15.5 million from LIFT?
From LIFT, correct.
Okay, can you remind us what LIFT is?
Low-income housing, I'm drawing a blank. Brad, you got this one?
That's good enough.
Low-income housing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, and you said that we have somebody on the phone representing Chrisman. Would that person like to speak?
Yes, hi, this is Maddie Miller. I'm the project manager working on Nebraska Trail. I think Amber covered mostly everything. I mean, I did kind of want to hit on one point. As we discussed, we are applying for LIFT funds through Oregon Housing. So we are in the impact assessment phase right now, and we submitted that about 2 weeks ago. We're waiting to hear back from Oregon Housing. And after that, we will hopefully move to the next phase and be able to receive a reservation letter. I think that's about it. I think Amber covered everything else, but if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer what I can.
Okay, thank you. Council, did you have any questions? All right. Yes, Dwayne? No? Okay, let's open this up to the public. Was there anybody wanting to speak on this issue? Please step forward. Well, yeah, step forward, state your name, and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Brian, Grants Pass. So building permits and fees are one of the main reasons why housing is ridiculously expensive. Going forward, what are the plans to reduce the permits, the fees, so we don't have to deal with this top 5 picks to get people bonuses to get into housing? What are the plans going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak on this issue? All right, I'll close public, oh, coming over, okay.
I'm a partner in the project, a minimal partner.
Can you tell us your name, Bill?
Pardon me?
What's your name?
My name?
Yes.
Mr. Lovelace.
All right, thank you.
Somebody I know sits up there. Anyway, I'm a partner in the project, and why this is vitally important, because any project that gets funded by the state of Oregon through low-income housing tax credits or other sources of funds, the more a local entity is involved is very important. That is true of the city. That's also true. Josephine Housing Council is a partner also. That is mentioned, I believe, on the screen. They will be providing subsidies for units for rent for very low income people. So the more people involved on a local level, the chances of getting funded at the state level go up dramatically. Thank you.
Is there anybody else wanting to speak on this issue? All right, we'll close public comment and turn it back to council. Dwayne.
Yeah, we've discussed this a lot already, and even how many housing are going to be here just a few months ago, so I don't think we need to rehash out that we want to move forward on this, so I'm going to go ahead and motion. I've moved to approve the resolution awarding Chrisman Development, Inc. a Housing Opportunity Fund grant for 241-227 for the development of the Nebraska Trail Apartments rental unit serving households at or above, below, 80% of the median income.
Seconded by nearly everybody. Rob. Okay, is there further further discussion? Rob.
Yeah, it appears, and we've heard tonight, that the CET is important because local funds get leveraged at higher levels. And I'm really pleased to see the CET working. It seems to be working really well. I just have to thank the councilors who had the courage to stand up and vote for the CET, because the night that we voted for it, the development community came out in force and tried to talk against it. There was one developer who actually took out an ad in the local newspaper and named 5 councilors as the S word, socialists, for daring to support the CET. And now we see that this is actually working well. And I wonder how that person who took that ad out and was so adamant that the CET was socialist and we're going down the tubes with it, and now he gets to see that it is actually working well. So I want to thank those councilors who had the courage to stand up and vote for the CET in 2021.
Is there further discussion? Brian.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, you almost got there, but I mean, he even went so far as to speak and benefit, and his project will be benefiting from the CET tonight. Thank you.
All right, Dwayne, you made the motion to approve the resolution. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, next up, we're looking at a resolution for a ARPA fund grant for the Mid-Rogue Foundation. And Mark Trinidad, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. Oh. Sorry. Thank you. There you go. Okay. Well, good evening. This is this item before you is the American Rescue Plan Act request for proposal public infrastructure for affordable housing, and this is round 4. In terms of a summary, tonight is a request to approve a resolution authorizing the payment of a public infrastructure grant up to $800,000 to the Mid-Road Foundation for a property located at 948 Northeast Hillcrest Drive in accordance with the ARPA RFP Round 4 guidelines. The relationship to City Council goals, the program supports Council goals to maintain and operate and expand our infrastructure to meet community needs by providing grant funding for the installation of new public utilities in underserved area of the urban growth boundary. By way of background, you've seen this a number of times now, but in 2022, the Council authorized approximately $1.6 million of ARPA funds to incentivize the development of affordable housing through public-private partnerships where City contributes ARPA funds for design and extension of public infrastructure. In round 1, March 22, the first award was awarded to Mid-Road Foundation for the Glencrest Cottages. However, that was subsequently withdrawn. The second round in May of 2023, the Council awarded Homebridging GP for the Scoville Road Senior Community, and that was an affordable homeownership development of 22 units. Round 3 was just approved back in June, and that awarded another ARPA grant to Homebridging GP for Fruitdale Townhouses and Cottage Development. That same evening, you will recall that the Councilor also rescinded the Round 2 award for Homebridging, and that was for their award for the Scoville Road Senior Community. However, that same evening, they did award a UAR, or Urban Renewal Agency grant for that project. And before I kind of go to round 4, it is important to note that the evaluation criteria through all 4 rounds has remained the same. There are 12 criteria. The Review Grants Committee has remained members of the Planning Commission, the Housing and Advisory Committee, and City staff, and we thank those volunteers to help us through the few years of various rounds of application review. There are 12 criteria that were evaluated, and that covered anywhere from the developer experience to the actual public infrastructure, to how many affordable units were created, access to funded, and readiness. And really, there was an emphasis in terms of scoring these projects that came for proposals for water, sewer projects, extensions, particularly if they expanded to the UGB, and those were higher ranked. And that brings us to round 4. In June, we released the round 4 applications. 2 proposals were received by the deadline. They both have met the proposal guidelines, of which Hillcrest Veterans Village, proposed by Mid-Road Foundation, was submitted, and as well as Allenwood Homes by PANO InkBuilt was submitted. In round 4, the Grants Review Committee recommends tonight the Mid-Road Foundation be awarded for the Hillcrest Veterans Village project. And you've seen this before. Again, these public infrastructure funds are designed to build and design public utility extensions and transportation improvements. The Mid-Road site is a property that they own, about 5 acres. They do have an existing home on it. However, the balance of the property is remain vacant, and this is where they intend to develop affordable housing. The public infrastructure piece will include extensions of water main along the Hillcrest right-of-way, and it includes both water and sewer extensions. And these public improvements will prompt potential future development within the urban growth boundary, namely across or east of the I-5. And this all public infrastructure goes for, again, the property that Mid-Road controls. That's 948 Northeast Hillcrest Drive. They intend to build a new construction of rental housing targeted to veterans and workforce housing. Their target AMI is between 30 and 80% AMI, and this is on their 5-acre lot, which council approved the annexation of the property and has R3 zoning. Again, this is a proposed new construction of 36 units, likely in 2 phases. 22 units will be targeted for veterans and 14 for workforce housing. Mid-Road estimates approximately $7.4 million of total development costs, and they've already have committed sources of land, obviously. Grants from the All Care Foundation and county ARPA funds are committed for this project. The cost implications, this we'll wrap up the final ARPA funds of the 1.6 million that was allocated a couple years ago, and this will be $800,000 committed to Mid-Rogue. If approved, all 100% of these funds will be allocated on behalf of this RFP. The call to action date is tonight, and ARPA funds under this, as you all will know, we do have to execute a subrecipient agreement by the end of the year, and the funds have to be spent within 2 years. Under this grant, the grant will expire in 18 months from the date of adoption of this resolution. That said, the alternatives and recommendations are behind me, and I'll mention that Susan Clark, the executive director of Mid-Rogue, is here also for any questions you have of the proposer. That concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? No questions at this time. All right, thank you. And was anybody wanting to speak on this issue? No? All right, we'll just turn it back to council for discussion. Dwayne?
Yeah, I think we've all talked about this subject before, so for this place, so I'm just going to go ahead and I move to approve the resolution awarding Mid-Rogue Foundation American Rescue Plan Act Public Infrastructure Affordable Housing Grant up to $800,000. This approval will include an expiration date of 18 months from the date of adoption of this resolution.
Seconded by Vanessa. All right, any discussion on the motion? Brian?
It's another good deal for the city. We're getting new housing units for about $22,000 per unit, and most of those units are for veterans, so another good housing project.
Any further discussion? All right, Dwayne, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yeah, yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. All right, next item is a resolution regarding the purchase of real property.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Here to discuss the purchase of Washington Franklin Midland piece of property. The purchase price is $2 million. The purpose of the property is really, the total size is 8.3 acres. You'll see there's 3 parcels specifically called out. There is a 3.5 acre of R4 zone residential property. Which is highlighted here in red. There is a piece of general commercial at 1.13 acres, and there is also a general commercial at 2.36 acres. So the main purpose of urban renewal agencies is to improve and prevent blighted areas. These are detrimental to the safety, health, and welfare of local communities. It can also lead to declines in property tax revenues and economic activity. The Urban Renewal Agency has identified this as a blighted area and is authorized to purchase property. And the Urban Renewal Agency has identified this as a piece of property for purchase to deal with blighted area and help increase economic development in association with the plan that we have adopted. There are 2 goals that this property purchase would accommodate in the Urban Renewal Agency. The first is underdeveloped land. There is a higher and better use than what is currently being utilized. It is vacant and bare, the pieces of property that we would be purchasing, so that provides a lot of opportunity both from a residential and a commercial perspective to develop. The second aspect of our Urban Renewal Agency that it targets is housing development. Grants Pass lacks approximately 2,000 units. For those at 80% AMI or below, by Grants Pass prioritizing housing, not only in what we've just adopted today, look at how much you've already improved housing within the community, both with our own properties and partnering with community members. This is another opportunity similar to Allenwood, where we will be able to develop this as either a mixed use or housing development, which will, with this acreage and this property, would definitely deal with the blighted issue, but also would put on the books a number of houses. And we have yet to determine what that is, but with the acreage and the size, it can have a positive impact, especially if you went multi-story with this, and you could do that in this area. Call to action is today's date. That aligns with the escrow calendar. The cost implication is $2,000, and that money would, $2 million, I'm sorry, and that money would originate from the Urban Renewal Agency. The alternative is to approve the resolution or not to approve the resolution. The motion is in front of you.
Thank you, Aaron. Council, do you have any questions? No questions? All right. Is there anyone from the public wanting to speak on this issue? Yes, please step up and state your name and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
I'm all for Bill Lovelace, I'm all for housing, but I have a bunch of questions that I think the council should be asking before you move forward on this. First of all, I read all the documents, saw no appraisal. Is it really worth the $2 million? Also, I don't believe the environmental impact statements have been completed yet. I think that's an important issue. And then the other thing that I hate about this process, you go into an executive session, you come out of executive session and go to the very first meeting to approve a land purchase. Across the street's a great example of the citizens of the community being very upset with the city because of no communications prior to purchasing a parcel of land. I don't believe that Asante is going to be able to sell that to a developer in the next month, the next 6 months, because of the state of the current building world and the cost involved in building projects. So I think you need to take a deep breath, get your due diligence all done. I talked to Amber even, and she's not even been spoken to about that site. She's your housing advocate. There's something wrong with the process here, gentlemen and ladies. So anyway, that's my comments. My wife may chew me out when I get home tonight, because I know she supports housing as much as I do, but I think the process is flawed. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak on this issue? All right, we'll close public comment and turn it back to council for discussion. Dwayne.
Sorry, I forget to push my button. I don't think we can close this property until the environmental study is done. So all we are is saying that we're moving forward on this property. We could back out if there was something wrong with the environmental study. So we are still in negotiation. We are just bringing this up to the public that this is our intent to buy this property, working with our attorney to go through the process. So I think all those things are still happening, and I don't think we're closing for over a month. I think I think October 1st is the soonest, but it could be wrong. And I think the reason why we wanted this property is because we want to do the same thing we do in Allenwood, and that's part of our goal, and that's what we all talked about. And so it was one of our priorities, so we saw this property, and I think that's what we wanted to move forward with. And so I'm going to go ahead and I move to approve the solution for purchase of real property as Assessor's map number 36-05-08 BC, tax lot 303, 323, 324, 328, 318, 322, 317, 321, 316, 320, I'm going to be tired pretty soon, 315, 326, 312, 325, 314, 313, 309, 308, 327, 306, 304, 305, and 390.
Seconded by Valerie. Any discussion on that motion? Brian and then Vanessa.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Urban Renewal Agency doesn't get a lot of opportunities like this. There's not a lot of opportunities of big tracts of land in the city that are zoned high-density residential to utilize. And so this is a really huge opportunity for the city and for kind of making up the difference or the deficit in the housing goal that we have. if these properties were built out to max density, which they probably won't be, but there's a potential of up to 150, 200 units here, which is huge. So, so it's very exciting.
Vanessa?
And to kind of continue on to what Councilor DeLagrange had just said, is that now that the city is moving forward and taking the lead on it, we actually can ensure that that type of development is done on that property. Whereas if the city is not taking charge on it, it might not look that same. And I did want to touch on the concern that I heard of maybe this didn't have as much vision tied to it, similar to the purchase across the street of the A Street location. This wasn't purchased just because of its proximity to City Hall. It was purchased because of the possibility of what can be done there. And I think that this could be a really great catalyst project for the Urban Renewal Agency. We know that we have about $10 million right now in that fund for housing development. And so I think that that could be a really great opening for the agency in terms of what is possible and inviting private and public partnerships to work together to build housing.
Rob?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said, and you know, I can understand why it looks as though this purchase was made kind of suddenly, but I can tell you that in 5 years ago, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that I'm smarter than anybody else in the room. There's at least 8 to 10 or more people in this room that clearly see the vision for this property. But almost 5 years ago, I wrote a letter to the editor and then also a copy of that to the City Council about this exact parcel. Just one possible idea what could be done there. This council has been looking at that property and has had the city manager reach out to Asante regarding that property probably 3 years ago. This is something that we've had our eye on. This is something that we've seen potential in, and it's not something that was purchased on with 2 days of forethought. It's been several years of considering some of the things that could happen there. And the fact that it currently brings in basically no property taxes because it's owned by a nonprofit, if we can actually get that back on the tax rolls, that's fantastic. It also gives us leverage because we have that ability to potentially have some kind of tax abatement that we could offer a developer to sweeten the deal. And you know, there's just so much opportunity there. So this isn't something that just sprung up. It's something that council did have its eye on for quite some time. And obviously, I think the obvious reason that, you know, when you're involved in real estate negotiations, that you don't make it public, because then there's no more negotiations. The other side knows what you're thinking. So obviously, that's one of the few things that are actually legitimate for executive session are real estate negotiations, because if you want to try to get a better deal or lower the price and so on and so forth, which the city manager was able to do in negotiating this deal, that doesn't work as well if it's on the front page of the newspaper. As soon as it's clear that someone who's perceived to have deep pockets, like a city, is interested in a project, well, the price can do nothing but go up. So it's pretty clear why having this be a public discussion would not have been the smartest move.
Rick?
I agree with what Rob has said, and I just think it's so nice to see the council moving forward with urban reserve funds and making, taking an opportunity and doing something. Thank you.
Joel?
The other thing that I think goes into this, and it's an assumption on my part, and I think it's a good one, there's an inholding in there of a building that doesn't, and they don't own the parking lot. We would own the parking lot. So as we buy the property, that we talk with that owner. It's a medical office, a needed facility within the town, and that we do it no harm.
Any further discussion? All right, Dwayne, I believe you made the motion to move forward with the resolution to purchase the property. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. And the next one, I believe, is also, a real estate discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak to you about the purchase of 601 Southeast I Street. The importance of this piece is it is contiguous to our current fleet and shop facilities. As you are aware, our fleet and shop facilities is stretched for space. And this is an ideal piece of property for us to purchase as it is contiguous to our southwest entrance of the shop facilities. By acquiring this piece of property, it would provide multiple benefits besides just having additional space, but it'd be a way for us to further configure for more efficiencies that southwest portion of our property. The city-owned property itself that we currently have is this piece here. You might be familiar with the shop area. We would be looking at purchasing this piece of property, which it's not only, like I mentioned, the gaining of the 0.3 acres, but it is gaining of the 0.3 acres with a multiplying factor because we can make this whole area more effective and efficient to serve the community. The real market value of the property is listed at $215,000. It sold back in 2023 for $170,000, and the purchase price in front of you today is $175,000. As I mentioned, the purpose for this is for future growth, for operational efficiencies, and for any potential secondary uses. It is fully fenced and it has electrical services on site. It's got a very nice graded big parking area also. So call to action in alignment with escrow is August 21st, 2024. Cost implication is $175,000. The dollars will originate from transportation, water, wastewater, and stormwater funds, as this is the long-term purpose of the public works and what it would be used for. So it would be split, the cost would be split across those departments. The alternative is to approve the resolution, don't approve the resolution, and there's a potential motion in front of you. And just like the previous property that we discussed, we are in a due diligence phase. As Councilor Juncker mentioned, we do have 60 days to do our due diligence and do our environmental studies that we're doing on both properties. With that, I conclude my presentation, Mayor.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Brian?
Thanks, Aaron. I have two questions. Could you pull that map back up? So, yeah, thank you. So at the bottom, there's that little kind of triangle piece, and then the section next to it, I know, is an abandoned alley.
Oh, right here?
Right there.
Yes.
Once we own that property, will we be able to absorb that into that lot, or how does that work?
Yeah, we likely with abandoned right-of-ways or alleyways, this will likely be similar where we could go ahead and try to vacate that. We would gain half of that and the other property owner would gain the other half.
Okay, great. And then, Jason, I wanted to ask, we've been hearing for a long time that you guys are pretty tight at the city yard with office space and other things. What do you see as the highest and best use for this addition?
Initially, nothing springs to mind, I'll be quite frank. We would want to take this into our master plan consideration. What it really provides us is with really good options for changing the entrance and egress without coming into the middle of the site for the future. Also, potential office buildings. You could run some modulars onto there and immediately make some office space for some of the crews without taking up very valuable space within the middle of the section.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Is there anybody from the public who wanted to speak on this issue? No. All right. Turn it back to you, Council, for discussion. Rick?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for purchase of real property, Assessor's Map 36517 CC, Tax Lot 2000.
Seconded by Valerie. Any discussion on the motion? All right. You made the motion, Rick. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 8-0. All right, I think we have made it to
Mayor,
public comment. Yes.
I think Rick might need to do something.
Oh, it's the moment. Okay, thank you. Rick, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the city council meeting past 9 o'clock.
Seconded by Vanessa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will extend the meeting. Next up is public comment, and this is an opportunity for the public to address the city council on items not related to a public hearing or council action item before the council tonight. The intent is to provide information that is pertinent to the city's jurisdiction. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the council as one body, not to individuals. At the conclusion of public comment, council will have an opportunity to respond. This meeting will proceed in an effective and courteous manner. Citizens and council members will be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free from slander, threats, or other personal attacks. Signs or placards, outbursts of applause, campaigning for public office, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. If you have a question regarding any government-provided service or a current city policy, please contact the city manager's office in an attempt to resolve the matter. And I have a number of blue cards here. I have Catherine Mouth. Is Catherine here? No longer. Jared Tweedle? No Jared? Mike Pelfrey?
Well, you stated my name, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm a city resident. I would assume those other people left because they just got worn out about them damn cats. So what I want to talk about is I appreciate you guys, the work that you've done in working on getting our parks back. That is huge. And that's exactly what we as a community wanted to see happen. So thank you very much. However, I really wish that we could figure out a way to address the vagrancy issues that we have in our town, because it is, you know, even with the complaints that have taken place over the course of the last couple of years with our parks, it's not complaints for people that are truly homeless, that maybe just something happened that was out of their control. We, as local citizens, our complaints are with the vagrancy that takes place within our parks, which is going to, I mean, it's going to continue. So I'm hoping, I mean, I guess when I was younger and growing up, we had vagrancy laws. We had issues. I mean, we had rules about that. I would love to know what the city is going to do to address that, because, you know, unless we have proper, I'll just say proper responses to vagrancy, it's going to just continue. And so I just pray that as a city, and especially our law enforcement, that they are able to do their jobs and we can start dwindling down the vagrancy issues that we have in our town, because that's really what most of us are concerned about. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not the person that just lost their house because of a fire or something. It's the person that is literally sucking the services away from the people that need it, and it's the vagrants. I mean, well, I don't have any more time. Whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is Nancy Lindquist still here? She spoke earlier. David Dapper.
Hi, David Dapper, city resident. I would like to really thank you for the parks, and especially for sparing Baker Park and Riverside West. Our group went by Riverside East picking up needles, and Brock showed you the bag of needles we find. They wander out of that Riverside West spot and they go shoot up down at the river and go to the bathroom down there and do whatever. I mean, it's disgusting. You come down there and clean up with us. It's amazing, the needles and caps, and they're not just down by the river, but they're down under the bridge and by the picnic tables. And you're really, really helping. You don't know how much you helped the situation by not making Riverside West a homeless shelter. And the poor people that live at the Riverside Park Terrace place, older people, they're tired of the fighting and all whatnot, and they just want to live out their years in peace and enjoy the life they worked for. And so Baker Park, same thing. The people that live around there, just, we're tired, we're fought out, and we appreciate so much what you guys did standing up for those two places. And for Tussing Park, for me, my doctor said I'll be able to cut back on my medication. That's important. Thank you so much.
All right, and Susan Clark. And I guess just a quick note, I don't know if anybody else was planning on speaking tonight, but we are enforcing the blue sign-in sheets, which are at the back of the room. So grab one real quick if you were hoping to speak.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank all of you for hanging with us for 4 rounds of ARPA applications, including the staff and the volunteers who scored them. We, on behalf of Mid-Road, we really appreciate making this funding available and allowing us to do something with ARPA funds for one of the populations that were hardest hit, which were veterans, and also for allowing us to be part of the solution to the housing crisis here in our community. So thank you.
All right, that was our public comment for the night. Nope, I don't have a blue card.
So what? You never asked for a blue card
I
before.
actually, just before Susan spoke, I just made an announcement about it. We're done with public comment for tonight. I literally just announced it. All right, does anybody from council want to respond tonight? Dwayne?
Yes. Thank you, Mike, for your nice comments. That's different. And I would agree. Most of what most people come here and talk about is vagrant people. I hear people come in here and go, these are our neighbors and these are good people, but I'm just telling you, my neighbors do not crap next to my house. They do not steal my bicycles. They don't leave trash or needles. You know what I'm saying? My neighbors don't do that. And if they did, we probably have to have Chief Hensman come and arrest me, because that's not how you treat your neighbors. And we do need to work on lawlessness. And I've talked to some counselors, I've talked to Chief. We really need to start working on misdemeanor crimes in this city. Those are the crimes that are being not prosecuted, I feel. It's mainly probably because our DA is overwhelmed. I don't like going to Walmart and have to have someone walk around with me to get stuff out of Walmart. I want toothpaste. I don't want to ask, can you help me unlock the thing, or lotion, or whatever it is. So it's really ridiculous that we have to live in a life that everything's locked behind, cabinets now. I hate that that's the society we're having to, where people have to bolt down their bicycles for their kids. That shouldn't happen. I grew up here. You could leave my bicycle. I'd tell you, my parents left the keys in the car. When we grew up here, the keys were in the car. You want to come steal from our house? The keys were in the car, and our house was unlocked. You only locked it when we went on vacation, and we were poor, so we didn't go on vacation. So, and David, I'm glad to hear your medication is going to go down. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy for you. Thank you. And we'll just keep working for housing and everything. I know we're not perfect, but we're listening, and we're continuing to work on things. And it's not going to be perfect at the end of this week when we do enforce things. I hope that it would be, but we know it's not. It's going to be a bumpy road, and I just hope you can have patience with us that we're going to get there, and we're going to back our law enforcement and let them do their job. Hopefully, in September 1st, they'll start enforcing drug use in the city here. Thank you.
Valerie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the thank yous too, because it has been hard sitting up here knowing that our hands are tied and we wanted to do more than we could. So we were all very happy when it happened that we could actually save the parks, because that was important to us. We do have kids. We do understand what it's like, how hard it's been for you by the park. I do want to put a question, speaking with the vagrants, and I will say that my husband's right there with you, because he's had a lot of problems at his business as well. And one of the things that he's kind of confused about, so maybe I'll bring this over to, and I know a lot of people I'm hearing from are asking, why are so many people released from the jail? If you read the police reports, and I was told it was because of Senate Bill 48 or something, but in looking over Senate Bill 48, it's basically about there being no requirement for bail, but it doesn't say anything about prosecution. So I was a little concerned. I know my husband was asking me about that, and I couldn't answer the question. But I would like some clarity on knowing exactly why there is that problem happening at the DA. So maybe I'll turn that over to Warren to help us understand that.
Yeah, I'll try my best, as this does not fall under my jurisdiction at all. However, Senate Bill 48 is essentially when the state has established release guidelines for the presiding judge of each county to establish, and there's different levels, and there's a whole bunch of crimes within level 1, 2, and 3, and it established different guidelines. For example, guideline 1 would be being released on your own recognizance. Guideline 2 would be released with court-imposed conditions, and a guideline 3, you would be held for arraignment, first appearance, or a release decision under the ORS. Like I said, we arrest them, the DA prosecutes them, but that's essentially what I think you're looking for. So if you were to do research on release guidelines in Josephine County, you would find that.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
All right. Anybody else? Emails, Karen?
So there was one email titled Park Questions, one request to build a new caveman pool, one email expressing offering the invocation at an upcoming city council meeting.
All right. How about the consent agenda? This is items that are of such routine nature without controversy that they may be approved with a single action. And I'm going to ask the council president to please read the list.
Item A, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into the city utility relief program agreements. Item B, resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between Jackson County and the City of Grants Pass establishing the Rogue Valley Workforce Consortium. Item C, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute local agency agreement 73,000,027,986 with ODOT for flexible service maintenance. Item D, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute change order number 3 with GLAS Architects LLC for scope changes to the City Hall re-roof design contract, project number LB6442. Item E, motion acknowledging the receipt of the monthly financial report for May. Item F, May 2024. Item F, motion acknowledging the receipt of the monthly and quarterly financial reports for the quarter ended March 2024. Motion acknowledging the receipt of the monthly financial report for April 2024. Motion acknowledging the receipt of the monthly investment report for July of 2024. Item I, motion approving the Development Code text amendment to Article 28, Utilities, Findings of Fact. Item J, motion approving the various minutes from the City Council meeting to the Tourism Advisory Committee, Historical Buildings and Sites Commission, Parks Advisory Committee, and item N, resolution adopting allowable locations for camping in accordance with ordinance number 24-5910. And with that, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Rick with the second. Thank you. And we don't discuss the consent agenda, so Vanessa, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. All right, next we need a motion to adjourn the city council meeting and convene the Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
I move to adjourn the City Council meeting and convene the Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Rick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item up on the agenda is consideration of a resolution of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency that would amend a resolution regarding the Cynthia's Home Sweet Home grant. Dana, we've kept you out late.
Comp time. Scratch my head.
Good evening, council and mayor and members of the public.
She said was in, so
I'm Dana Pierce with Economic Development Division. Tonight I'm going to present on the Urban Renewal Agency grant request from Cynthia's Home Sweet Home. The subject in summary is a resolution to amend Resolution 237384 and authorize a time extension for the payment of a matching Urban Renewal Agency grant for Cynthia's Home Sweet Home. It relates to council goals by encouraging economic opportunities. Back in August last year of 2023, Cynthia and Peter Hewitt were awarded a URA grant that was needed for repairs and upgrades to their cafe that's located at 1038 Northwest 6th Street. The grant award expires after 1 year of adoption, and so on July 16th of this year, due to various project delays, the grantee requested an extension. The grantee anticipates that the completion of the remaining projects will be done within 6 months. And so this resolution is an amendment that would extend the payment, the time for payment to the end of the FY25 year, which would be June 30th of 2025. Just a quick background, this project included repairs and upgrades to the street-facing fence, repairs and painting on the north side of the building, and a roof replacement. The grantee submitted receipts and received reimbursement on all activities except the roof replacement. The grantee also has submitted a cost estimate for that roof replacement. It's included in your packet as Exhibit C. Here are a few images of the improvements that have been done to date. You can see in the middle, the north side of the building's been repainted to match the rest of the facade. The missing gate has been replaced, and then some of the fencing has been repaired as well. So for this request, the revenue source is the FY25 URA budget. There is a line item for carryover grant expenditures to cover the previous year awards for reimbursement, and that's $137,700. This breakdown below shows you what the original grant award was for. So the original request the original cost for the project was $40,795. So the original reimbursement at 50% was $20,398. Here's your receipts. So they came in at $4,596, and then what was reimbursed so far is that $2,298. The roof estimate that they've provided is $16,760, and so the reimbursement for that would be $8,380. We're looking at a total reimbursement of $10,678, which is just over half of what the original request was, original award. So the call to action tonight is at the Urban Renewal Board's discretion. You can approve the grant extension, modify it, or deny it. I have a potential motion here for you. I also did want to mention that Cynthia was here earlier. She did have to go home before it got dark, so. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? No questions. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this issue? Nope. Okay. Turn it back to you, council, or rather Urban Renewal Agency members for discussion. Valerie.
I'm going to move forward and move to approve the resolution of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency, amending Resolution 23-7384, awarding Cynthia and Peter Hewitt for Cynthia's Home Sweet Home a matching URA grant for property located at 1038 Northwest 6th Street, including a time extension to June 30th, 2025.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion? All right. Val, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Dwayne.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
DJ.
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0. And the next one, similar grant for mimosas.
Great. Yes. Again, this is an urban renewal grant request for Mimosas. Property owner is LOBL LLC. Again, this resolution will authorize payment for a matching urban renewal agency grant in amount up to 25% of the total project costs for facade improvements, which would include painting, awning material replacement, and front window and door glass replacement on the building located at 118 and 120 Northwest East Street. It relates to council goals by encouraging economic opportunities. Jody Haynes owns and operates Mosa's Scratch Kitchen and would like to improve the front facade. We also have the other owner here, Jason Rambo's here. He's also owns the property. So if you do have questions at the end, you're welcome to ask. The building is on the national and statewide historic register, but it is outside the local historic district boundary. The improvements would match the color and character of the historic facade, and they do not require formal HBSC review. The project qualifies under the Building Rehabilitation or Restoration Project of the Urban Renewal Grant and Loan Program, which is project number 9 under the Urban Renewal Plan. Here are a few images. So the request is for facade improvements, painting the wood, replacing the awning material, and replacing the front window and door glass. The revenue sources, the FY25 URA budget, there's $250,000 appropriated for grant opportunities. The total estimated project cost is $10,036.81. So the grant request at 25% match would be $2,509.20. The council action tonight is at your discretion. Again, approve the request for up to a 25% match, modify the grant, deny the grant. And here's a potential motion.
Thank you, Dana. Are there any questions? No. Was anyone from the public wanting to speak on this issue? No. All right. We will close public comment and turn it back to you, council, or board members rather. Rick.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency awarding LOBL LLC, Mosas, and URA Building Rehabilitation Restoration Grant for property located 118 and 120 Northwest East Street.
Seconded by Valerie. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Rick, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. And at this time, we need a motion to move back into our council meeting. Vanessa?
I move to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and reconvene as the City Council.
Thank you. Seconded by Rick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have arrived at matters from Mayor Council. And I just want to say, we are moving forward with our efforts to establish some new places for people to camp that are not our city parks, and just remind the citizens that we've been waiting a long time for this moment to be able to get out from this, under this injunction. We're kind of right on the precipice here in the next few days. We don't know exactly what will happen once we start doing this, but we all know that we will adapt as necessary to make this work out for our community the best that we possibly can. And we thank our police officers who are going to help make this happen for us, and for our park staff who are probably looking forward to being able to get back to landscaping and some of the more fun parts of parking, park care rather than this homeless situation. And so we just ask everybody for a little patience. I've seen a lot of chatter on social media over the past couple weeks with the uncertainty, I think, and the anxiety, I guess, of not knowing exactly what to expect. And none of us know exactly what to expect, but we're going to deal with it. And it's just been a long time of waiting. And I've said it many, many times, but this was never anything that the council wanted, not anything that I wanted. It was the cards that we dealt, and we've been dealing with it. So we will continue to do so. Dwayne.
I just want to expand on what Chief said, or actually got some more questions. But I just want to be able to can we get information of how many people that are arrested that are not even, that their charges are dropped due to just not time to prosecute them? There's a lot of concern. I've talked to other law enforcement officers in this town and the county, they say they're not happening, that they don't even get to the judge stage or any of that like that. So that kind of goes along with, I think Rob brought it up the other day for me because I was gone, I had to leave early on Monday, and I'd like to know how many cases are actually being dropped and not prosecuted just because we don't have time to deal with them. Because I think that is a concern that a lot of citizens have brought up to me. And I don't know how to get that information or how we can get that. Thank you.
I think I can probably tell you. My assumption is that we just have to do a public records request with the DA's office. I don't house those documents, though, at our place.
Joel?
So one of the things I think we need to recognize is the 3 biggest holes in the bottom of the bucket for homelessness have been patched. The injunction will be lifted. Measure 110 has been addressed. It's not fully, that hole isn't fully closed, but it's halfway closed. And then housing, we made good progress on housing. So the other holes in the bucket that are farther up now can be effective, whether it's nonprofits or whatever it is, because those 3 big holes in the bottom of the bucket are no longer just leaking water like crazy. It'll release a lot of energy for the community, a lot of beneficial energy, and we should anticipate that. And it's just an incremental step. It's not the final solution by any means. So here we go.
Anybody else? Vanessa?
It was buried in our consent agenda, but I did want to give a shout out to the mayor for stepping up in place of the county commissioners who have recently withdrawn another community-wide obligation where our county is supposed to be represented for the workforce consortium, but the commissioners have chosen not to participate. So the mayor has stepped up in their place, and I would just like to say thank you for keeping that partnership alive.
Thank you, and thank you to the council for your support on that. It is the Rogue Workforce Partnership Consortium is looking forward to continuing to represent Josephine County as well as Jackson County, and this was a legal step that needed to happen. So I'm happy to fill in the gap there, and thanks for your support. Anything from staff tonight?
Yeah, I just want to thank council for their leadership in coming up with some alternatives and a game plan for moving forward. Now that we're not going to be operating fully under the injunction and we have our own time, place, and manner regulations, your policy decisions, I think, will make a positive impact in the community. I also want to thank Chief Hintzman and Jason Kennedy and staff for really taking above and beyond action in order for us to get ready in a timely fashion. I greatly appreciate the professionalism and their willingness to take on additional responsibilities because they are additional responsibilities, and I greatly appreciate that. With their efforts, it looks like we'll be able to go live Friday with those sites. So,
I have a question, just because what's on this is different than what I thought we talked about. This one we had the 6th and A. Oh, no, this is the 6th and A, right? 7-4, okay. I was unclear. Okay, good, no. All right.
I just had a quick comment because I misspoke, Councilor Juncker, when I was thinking about the question. It's late. We are notified when the DA files any charges, so I'm sure I can work with city manager and look into that deeper for you.
Anything else? Hey, thanks for cleaning up A Street, getting those cones out of the way. I can get back home. All right, I think we have reached the end.
Do we need to move to the last agreement on the resolution at the very end? I just asked that because it's here and I just saw it. I moved to adopt the resolution identifying allowable locations. Do we need to do that or not?
It was in the consent agenda.
Oh, it was. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Brian.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Seconded by Vanessa. All in favor of adjourning this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Good night.